Thursday, November 21st, 2:06 p.m., and this is a meeting of the Town of Fort Myers Beach Cultural and Environmental Learning Center Advisory Board here at the Town Hall Chambers. And I would like to call this meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Elect a chair and a vice chair, and with that, I'm asking CELCAB members to put forth a nomination for chair. And I want to preface that by saying, just because I've served as chair for a number of years doesn't mean that you can't get somebody new. So feel free to nominate somebody else if you're so inclined. So
Barbara, I want to thank you very much for that statement. And I would like to nominate Barbara Hill, not because
and I would like to second it.
not because she has done it in the past, but because she's so darn good at it.
Yeah.
I third that.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's do a vote. All in favor of Barbara Hill as chair?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you very much, and that certifies Barbara Hill as chair. Now we'll have vice chair, and that's Betty Simpson, and we'd like to entertain a sorry? Oh, I'm sorry, yes, it is
I
Sherry.
think it's Sherry.
Excuse me, of course, Sherry.
I was like, uh-oh.
Sherry is our vice chair, folks. And has been for how many numbers of years?
Right, I'm along with Barbara, but I don't have to be the vice chair, if somebody else would.
I'd like to nominate Sherry Smith for vice chair.
I second it. Oh.
We have a second
And a
from,
third.
we have a second from Ellen.
They have confidence.
Yes, they do. All right, all of those in favor of Sherry Smith serving yet again for vice chair of CELCAB, say
Aye.
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 Those opposed? None. No, this certifies too that Sherry Smith is now a board vice chair for another 2 years. Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, you too.
All right, so we now have public comment, and we have a couple of people in the audience, so please state your name and come up and say what you need to say. You're saving yours because you're going, it's gonna be a long meeting. Okay. Same? All right, we'll move on to, I don't see the approval of the minutes on this agenda.
You're right.
Let's just do it anyway.
Yeah, we'll approve them.
Sure, they're fine.
Actually, I would like for you to take a look at the minutes. I have several changes I want to make.
Yeah, there were a couple in there.
My notes first. So if you've not had an opportunity to review the minutes, I suggest you do so now. And if you have any comments to make, please, anybody have any comments at this point? Okay, I'd like to make a clarification on the first page of the minutes. I think it's a habit that we probably all do from time to time, but it's important for the record to state, if we're mentioning someone, that we would state their first name and their last name. And in this case, with the first paragraph, it referred to Teresa. Number one, her name is Teresa with an H, so it's T-H-E-R-E-S-A, and her last name is Schober. So I would like the minutes to reflect that addition. And the newly hired collections manager, who is Brenda Vicaro, I would like, again, for her position to be added, especially now because she is new. So I'd like the minutes to reflect her official title, which is, what is her official title?
So Brianna's official title is Museum Registrar.
Registrar, so she is museum registrar. that could also be reflected in the minutes, I'd appreciate that.
The professional archaeologist. But now you're talking about a registrar.
Yes, in the minutes we were reflecting the collection management policy, changing the language of the requirement in the collection management policy draft to be not just a registered public archaeologist, but to be an archaeologist. And then Brianna is the museum registrar.
Okay.
So one is a certification, and the second being the title of the staff member.
Okay, any other questions, comments, additions? There being none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Second.
Second, Sherry Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I have to look at this. Hold on just a moment. Okay. Staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, you may have noticed the email was quite long. It's a lengthy report. In the best interest of time and clarity, I'm not going to read the staff report I emailed, but I have synthesized its main points into a much shorter report that I would like to read out for y'all right now. So, things going pretty well at Mound House, and for staff, we both overall continued our hurricane recovery from Hurricane Ian, as well as continued hurricane recovery from Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, as well as continued staff professional training. Just some accolades I'd like to point out. One, not to be selfish, first me, not to toot my own horn.
Toot my horn.
Recently I presented 2 sessions at the Southeastern Museum Conference, one on managing municipal ran museums and one on community engagement. Then I was accepted into 2 competitive programs, both with scholarships. One, the Smithsonian and FEMA's Heritage Emergency at-Risk Training Seminar, which is in Washington, D.C., and the Jekyll Island Management Institute, hosted by the Southeastern Museum Conference. Education Programs Coordinator Franklin de la Cruz attended the Southeastern Museum Conference, also as a scholarship recipient. He was the sole recipient of the Historic House Museum Professional Scholarship through that organization. In marketing, Mound House ads will run on the Fort Myers Beach Seasonal Tram starting November 2024 through April 2025. And in addition to that, we are running, through a collaboration with the Visitor Convention Bureau, digital ad campaigns targeting potential visitors in the Midwest and Northeast United States, as well as a year-long email campaign through the Lee County Visitor Convention Bureau. As well, due to a noted increase in visitors from a direct mailing campaign through a separate campaign and organization, we will be continuing direct mailing marketing campaigns starting in December 2024 and continuing until March 2025 to an estimated 20,000 households in the Southwest Florida area. In terms of facilities, the Mound House was closed on September 27th and October 7th through October 18th due to Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, respectively. Hurricane Helene brought 32 inches of storm surge to the grounds and damaged landscape lighting and electrical outlets in the underground exhibit. Hurricane Milton brought 51 inches of storm surge to the grounds and underground, damaging more of the landscaping and the entire electrical system, locks, and other key facilities of the underground exhibit. While the museum and grounds reopened on October 19th after Hurricane Milton, the underground remains closed. A structural engineer who visited on this past Monday, November 20th, is currently reviewing the long-term safety elements of the underground exhibit and what we as the town can do to mitigate risk to visitors, staff, and the overall cultural resources of the Midden and the historic Case House. I will address this more in a later point, in one moment. The historically accurate gutters have been ordered, and days for installation are currently being planned between the vendor repairs to the damage of the replica living room and museum store ceilings from summertime thunderstorms are currently being planned as well to take place next month. Thankfully, the ceiling drop-downs tiles were made of painted cardboard, so the repairs will be minimum both in cost and time. Both projects, the gutters and drop-down ceiling replacement repairs, are covered under FEMA reimbursement. Landscape lighting has been approved by the town, and scheduling for this new project of new landscape lighting along the paths connecting the restroom, museum, and small parking lot, as well as repairing the existing damaged observation pier lighting, will be scheduled in the coming days. In programming and events, in October we had 503 visitors to Mound House. Even with a 9-day closure, we still had more visitors in October 2024 than we did in October 2023. 3 successful events were hosted, including our community conversation, formerly known as the lecture series, with author David Webb, which saw an attendance of 10 people, and the community conversation with Dr. William Lacasio, which saw 19 people in attendance. Our collaborative event with the Miccosukee tribe of Indians of Florida, titled Real Indian, Real Indigenous, Native Art and Pop Culture, saw 62 visitors attend the screening and pop-up art show. So far, as of this morning, 9 a.m., November 21st, we have seen 522 people visit so far for November.
Nice.
Wonderful.
So that is some general updates, and now to get to more general, specific updates, which will later be discussed, I'm sure, in great detail, and I'm hoping for y'all's feedback and advice and guidance for the 2 points on the agenda, both the new business of the underground area sustainability and the old business of the collection storage. But just to briefly highlight that for my staff report, before we move that into the agenda, the underground exhibit, after extensive evaluation, staff has made a difficult decision to strongly recommend the closure of the underground exhibit permanently. Recent hurricanes have caused significant flooding, erosion, and infrastructure damage, including risks to confirmed Seminole ancestral burials located near the exhibit. These events underscore ethical, cultural, and financial challenges of maintaining this exhibit. Continuing to operate the underground exhibit conflicts with best museum practices in archaeology and museum ethics, especially without direct collaboration with the Seminole Tribe of Florida and the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians of Florida, whose ancestors built the mound. This decision was made in consultation with the 2 tribes, as well specifically with the staff of the tribes. The Seminole Tribe of Florida's Tribal Historic Preservation Office staff, including Dominique Delavoye, Dr. William Lacasio, David Scheidecker, as well as Dr. Jason Daniel of the Tribal Historic Preservation Office for the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians of Florida, Dr. Michelle Lefebvre, Director of the Randall Research Center and Assistant Curator of Archaeology at the Florida Museum of Natural History at the University of Florida, Dr. Sarah Ayers Rigsby, the Director of the Southeast-Southwest region for the Florida Public Archaeology Network, and Natalie De La Torre Salas of the Southwest Florida region of the Public Archaeology Coordinator for the Southwest region of the Florida Public Archaeology Network. These consultations above do not reflect any demands or statements of support one way or another from the people, organizations, or tribes listed, but only illustrate the diverse and scholarly sources staff have assessed to reach this difficult decision and recommendation. All sources stated above added they would support us in our decision to close the underground exhibit in any way we saw fit. The closing of the exhibit allows us to redirect resources to develop sustainable educational exhibits across the entire 2.77-acre site and inside the museum. Collaborating with tribal partners, the Florida Public Archaeology Network, and the University of Florida, we will be able to reinterpret the site with updated data, new outdoor and indoor displays focused on issues such as climate change, resiliency, cultural continuity, and best practices in cultural heritage stewardship. In the 2022 Archaeological Conservation Project, resources were already set aside with the town of Fort Myers Beach, the University of Florida, and the Seminole Tribe of Florida in the reinterpretation of the underground exhibit from that 2022 Archaeological Conservation Project. Furthermore, it should be noted that while I was unable to communicate with former Mound House Director Teresa Schoberg She did present a poster at the Southeastern Archaeological Conference on the long-term sustainability and the engineering of the underground exhibit, which she was able to develop before Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. The conclusion of her poster stated the closure of the underground would be needed due to the rise of sea level. Teresa Schoberg, just as a reminder, was the principal archaeologist, and the person responsible for the creation of the underground exhibit. Moving on, lastly, to collection preservation for my staff report. To address the urgent need for collection preservation, staff is currently planning to repurpose the Digging Deeper exhibit of the Mound House bathroom into a collection storage room. This step follows feedback from CELCAB during the June 2024 meeting, of which staff was able to revise plans to retain the living room exhibit and cover the replica bathtub instead of removing it. After consulting best practices from the American Alliance of Museums and addressing the logistical realities, it became clear that alternative storage locations proposed by CELCAB at that meeting unfortunately were neither feasible in the immediate future nor cost-effective to taxpayers. We also consulted Dr. Michelle Lefebvre at the University of Florida and Dr. Scott Neal, our peer reviewer from the American Alliance of Museums, to reach this decision and recommendation. This solution ensures compliance, safeguards the collection, avoids unnecessary taxpayer expenses. I'll be happy to answer any questions on that or answer them in a more detailed manner as we move them through the agenda items.
Thank you, Adam. Before we address the next agenda item, I want to let the minutes reflect that Betty Simpson joined us during the staff report, so welcome.
Apologize.
Well, we do your traffic, right? And the other issue is that there were two things that were supposed to be scheduled for the agenda. One is the ordinance issue with regard to updating the 1998 ordinance to reflect the changes that council had been voting on with regard to advisory boards and specifically CELCAB. So that was planned for this meeting. Actually, it was planned for October. As you know, we canceled October's meeting. Oh, and here was Jim too. Hello, Jim.
Hello, how are you?
Well,
Just for the record, Jim Adderhold has arrived. Yes,
I looked at the map and
Yeah.
there you were. So, welcome.
thank you, thank you.
Yes, for the meeting of October, that was unfortunately canceled because of the hurricane. And so that item, which is the ordinance change, as well as the collection management policy draft, which also is to be discussed at a CELCAB meeting. But both of those items will be tabled until the December meeting because we felt that there were some issues with regard to both the underground exhibit and the collection that merited extensive discussion. So I just wanted to get that out of the way and.
Wait, can you
Yes.
so the underground exhibit and collection storage are being tabled till next month?
No,
Oh.
the ordinance,
Got
the
it, got it.
1998 ordinance with
Thank you.
regard to how our advisory board operates, does need to be addressed, and so that will happen in December,
Thank
as
you.
well as the collection management policy draft, which you received, in October meeting, and that was supposed to have given you the opportunity to review it at length, and then for us to talk about it, discuss it, and approve it, at an upcoming meeting, so this can be an official document, but we'll table that for December. Yes, the crux of the meeting today has to do with two very important issues. Number one, the underground exhibit, number two, collection storage. So with that, I'm gonna hand it back to Adam to talk about, sustainability and resilience.
Yes. So as I noted, with the unfortunate continued flooding of the underground exhibit poses significant challenges. First in the staff's mind is the fact that in the underground exhibit there are known reinterred Seminole ancestors.
Has that been certified?
No, there's,
Yes.
By
yes.
who?
by the Seminole Tribe of Florida, as is their right as a sovereign nation and through federal law.
But no forensic
No,
anthropologist
no
has looked
forensic.
at them.
Forensic anthropology is only one of the several merits that can deem tribal affiliation under the North American Graves Repatriation Act and federal law.
So even if the skull is shown not to be of indigenous people, they can still claim it?
The Seminole Tribe of Florida claims them as their ancestors, as is their right under federal law. And there are more than one way to prove lineal descent and cultural continuity under federal law.
So you're just taking away our underground.
Yeah,
The underground exhibit, as I said, faces several
We
many
understand
challenges.
that. And how about an engineer coming in without that underground exhibit?
Sherry, could you
We-
pull that mic so people need to hear
Yes.
you? Yeah.
I'm sorry about the Sherry Smith. Without that underground exhibit, and I've been here many years, and I've been a docent, and I have showed that, and people are blown away by it. It's something that only we really have. I don't see how this can just be taken away from us. Our mound house, a mound house and as a museum, will not survive without it.
I agree.
I agree.
The-
I would just say from a process perspective, to reach this conclusion and to
Without us.
seek all the input from other people without coming to CELCAB
It's bad.
to let us know that you were beginning this process is unfortunate at best.
Yes.
Just to reach that point first before I address Sherry's point, I haven't reached a conclusion. As noted in my report, this is a recommendation, and this is why I wanted your input and feedback right now in this public setting to CELCAB. So I'm here to get your input and advice and guidance.
But to have taken all the steps that you have taken already involving so many other outside experts before coming to us and alerting us to the fact that you are considering this is it's disappointing at best.
I was following the advice of, Chairwoman Hill, who recommended I seek out expert advice of archaeologists, engineers, and other subject area experts to give CELCAB the full scope of opinions and research, so it'd be a more robust decision in reaching this. In regards to Member Smith's comments, the underground exhibit, we'll kind of tackle them one by one. It's a burial.
No, it's
It's what?
It's not an exhibit. It's not an educational
No, it's
resource. It
I beg
is
to
a
differ.
there are ancestors buried there.
Yes, but not Calusa.
They are
Not
Seminole
Indian.
ancestors under federal law.
As I have, having only been involved for the last 15-ish years, well, no, whatever, I have been led to believe that they are settler people that are buried there.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm sorry to be so frank, you're asking for proof for the Seminoles claims, but where is the evidence for your claims?
Well, that's
We
why
need it.
we're suggesting that there be some, what's the right term for this, Patrick?
Forensic anthropologist.
Yes, thank you.
To conduct forensic anthropology on remains which were continuously disturbed, both for the construction of the swimming pool by the Long family in the 1950s, and later by the construction of the underground exhibit from the pool's removal, though that was not the intention, it did happen, and the process by which the remains were reinterred. I will not speak for the Seminole Tribe of Florida, nor the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians of Florida. That is not my place. This will be an evolving conversation with them. But from my understanding, in discussing and beginning these conversations, as I said, this is a beginning of a conversation. No decisions have been made. That the ancestors that are interned in the underground exhibit have gone through a lot. It's been a traumatizing experience for the indigenous populations and indigenous communities of Southwest Florida, in particular the Seminole and Miccosukee. And this research was reached from the initial archaeological excavations from Director Schoberg, the state archaeologist of Florida, and the Tribal Historic Preservation Office. and it was under federal law, as recently updated in January of this year, the North American Graves Repatriation Act. Institutions cannot deem remains culturally unidentifiable.
Adam, just curious, is the impetus for this recent federal law, or is it the fact that we've had all these hurricanes?
Both.
What's,
So there are many decisions. So one, it's a burial. So it would be, we don't go to other cemeteries and turn them into attractions or have children play or give field trip tours. There are some cemetery tours, but not to the level of
so you're
the
saying,
state that we had in the underground exhibit.
you're inferring that this has been wrong all along?
Not wrong all along. I'm not in a place to judge past actions of, previous administrations or previous staff members, but ethics have been updated. So for us to continue the underground opening does pose some ethical concerns. And if the museum ever wishes to be accredited, that would pose a real challenge towards accreditation, as well as threaten general accreditation and other ethical considerations of
So when
best
you
practices.
use the term ethics have been updated, that doesn't, I'm trying to understand what that even means. How are ethics updated? Either ethics or ethics, I mean, what's updated? What does that mean?
In terms of ethics that are set forth by the Accreditation Institute, that is the American Alliance of Museums, they have revised ethics and updated written ethics, so everyone's on the same page. So one of the, for example,
So last year it was ethical, this year it's unethical?
so in terms of consensus building and through dialogue and listening to experts, in terms of the majority of the museum field now has come into alignment that what was appropriate then, upon listening to new people, especially working with tribal communities, it has now been realized, there may have been some missteps, there may have been some errors, and we can do better. And some things in the past were hurtful to people that weren't involved in the conversation, but now those people have been added to the conversation, and people have been persuaded based on evidence and dialogue and years and years and years of research, linguistic, archaeological, historical, religious, geospatial, and these ethics have been updated, and that has also reflected federal law with the update to the North American Graves Repatriation Act through a rule change and reinterpretation of that 1990 law in 2024 by the Department of Interior.
So it's been since 2024, so this is new.
In terms of the cultural
federal law.
unidentified, no, so part of it. So part of it is from 1990, that is the North American Graves Repatriation Act. There was a lot of loopholes, let's say, in the law. And I'm not a subject matter expert on NAGPRA. There's entire professions. For example, the Seminole Tribe of Florida, they have 2 full-time people dealing just with NAGPRA as a law, because it's a lengthy process. So what has been updated was some of those loopholes that were filled through a rule interpretation and rule change from the Department of Interior in January 2024, stopping museums and other institutions from labeling remains as culturally unidentifiable, which was hindering the process of returning people's grandparents and to their descendants.
Adam, does our town attorney believe that we'd be in violation of the law if we don't close this facility?
No, I haven't been able to speak to her or the attorney's office in that matter. But one thing that is of concern is it's not necessarily legal compliance, more so the ethical compliance set forth by the American Alliance of Museums. So that's the first issue. And I think that's the most difficult issue, from my understanding, for the members here to, for me to convey properly, as the information has changed since the time the Mound House was acquired by the town in 2000, since the time the museum opened in 2015, and most of the exhibits and training and programs and tours were developed and written by the staff at the time, even whenever I started. When I started, former director Allison Geeson told me, no, the Calusa aren't related to the Seminole. Since then, more research has come out, just like in any field of science. We update our information. we update procedures, methodologies to be better, both in educating the public and providing public assistance to residents, taxpayers, but also in terms of conducting research more effectively.
And I'm sorry, Barbara, just one more question. So did the Seminole come to us with these complaints, or is it only because we brought it to their attention?
Yes.
No, so the Seminole Tribe of Florida would never make a demand, nor the Miccosukee Tribe, for us to close the exhibit. Nor would they like to comment publicly. But based in my initial beginning collaborations and consultings with them, and these leading academics in the field of archaeology who are employed by the Seminole Tribe of Florida, they support our decisions and would support us in closing it, and they would support us in a reinterpretation of the site.
But they've not made a formal request.
No, sir.
Okay.
So I think how this came about initially was that the last hurricane, when it flooded and took out, all the electronics, even at Milton, I think it was 51 inches or something. The remains were uncovered a little more, so we inquired about if a proper burial for them. And I think that's how it got this ball rolling.
Yes.
Barbara, I have a question that keeps coming up in this whole thing. The Mound House is a cultural and environmental learning experience.
Right.
When did it become a museum?
Great question. The term museum was always implied. There were people who were our museum directors, I think Allison specifically, who felt the word museum was off-putting. It didn't really bring the general public in. So she downplayed, didn't ignore, but downplayed the word museum with any of her presentations and in the writings and reports. Any facility that is operating as a learning facility that has a collection, which, by the way, Mound House from the inception always had a collection. If you have a collection, it is implied that you are a museum. You are interpreting and exhibiting and educating with regard to the artifacts and the items that you have in the museum per se. So it is a museum. It's been more prominently used as a term now.
Yeah. So for example, is the Edison House a museum?
Yes,
They call themselves a museum?
they call themselves a museum, but maybe it's not in their title, just like before with Allison and probably Teresa too, I can't really recall. There would be the Mound House, but then there would be Mound House Museum. Just for brevity's sake, we just would eliminate the museum. That's an interpretive thing, not necessarily based on fact.
Okay, to follow up then, has Adam been given the go-ahead to try to get the Mound House certified as a museum by CELCAB?
It was always implied that we were a museum. We've been a museum from the very
But
beginning.
certification or
You mean the AAM? Yes.
all of that?
It was in our strategic plan that we developed something like 10 years ago.
Okay.
That in that strategic plan, a long-term goal during Teresa's tenure
Yeah.
was that we were looking for AAM accreditation. Absolutely. It was always a goal.
So, were the CELCAB to direct Adam that it does not wish to go for AAM, whatever it is, certification, if that's going to cause issues for the opening of the underground, would that be possible?
Anything is possible.
Okay.
And I just want to point out that through the town and through our literature, it is considered a museum.
Exactly.
And under state law, the functions of what we were doing is constituted under state cultural property law as museum.
But it doesn't nobody requires us or any other organization or site to undergo accreditation by AAM.
Correct, but we still have to follow law.
Follow the law.
Yes.
Understand that. But you said that the major issue, if we kept the underground open, would be with the accreditation
Would
process.
jeopardize our standing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know
become
with the
a-
accreditation comes a lot of great things for the Mound House itself, you know.
Take away the exhibit,
funding
you
and-
lose the best great
And,
thing.
you know, and I just wanted to interject here, cause we've been talking a lot about the ethical part, but, you know, there's the financial part too. Every time we get a flood, we have to redo the electrical, we have to, it's starting to shift the exhibit itself. It's closed, you know, over the last 2 years, it's been closed the majority of the time, and visitorship has actually stayed the same.
So can we get flood barriers
can-
for that? I mean,
The problem is it comes from all sides. It comes from the bottom, it comes from the top, it comes from the sides. That's the issue. I mean, we were having trouble even, for instance, with the electrical at the ball field. It's hard to flood-proof anything
yeah.
at all, and I think a lot of people on the island know that too.
Right.
It's really hard unless you go up, you know, unless you put everything up real high. So, you know, there is that financial burden that the town gets too, and, you know, from the repairs, even from Ian, we spent about $450,000 on the Mound House. We have an annual budget of, I think, from the general fund, about $550,000. So we keep doing this, and it's gonna cost, I think we're, just for the electrical part, and the AV system, it's gonna be around $250,000. So for me, I mean, for Adam, he obviously has the ethical part of it, but for me, it's a
financial.
It's a financial thing. I mean, do we want to keep redoing it? You know, we're even thinking, just for instance, for the town, we're thinking about raising the gym floor up 8 feet, so we don't have to go through this every single time, and we don't have to spend taxpayer money every single time. And everyone says it's reimbursable, but it comes back to us, and we only get a percentage of that reimbursement. So, you know, we've been in conversations, and is it a good stewardship for the taxpayer dollars when we don't get as much in return? I get it. That's actually my favorite part, is the underground. I gotta tell you, the minute I saw it, it was great. So Adam and I have just been talking about, and just today we actually mentioned, you know, is there something we can do to show that off in an exhibit? Or, I know it doesn't have the same effect, I totally understand that, but it is a big financial burden for the town. That's just another part of it that comes into play, because we keep having to redo and redo and redo. And town-wide, we're looking for alternatives to not have to keep going through this process.
If I could interject, you keep talking about redoing the electrical.
Right.
How about the consideration of just restoring it to its native state without any electrical without any embellishments to it, and that the exhibit could be people arriving with flashlights and having a guided tour where it's just in its pristine natural condition. Because to not have it, it would be like saying, well, you know, we're not going to go down the Grand Canyon anymore because it's whatever.
Yeah.
The whole idea of the Mound House is the mound and the house.
Yeah.
And the mound is the premier attraction,
Yes.
which brings people here. Whenever it's not open, people are extraordinarily
Very
disappointed.
disappointed.
To close that off from them, I think is wrongheaded.
Yeah,
And as far as the repatriation of the remains, I think we need to engage in forensic. What is the right term, Pat?
Anthropology.
Forensic anthropology.
It's easy enough to determine if they are settlers that came here in the 1800s, or they're Spanish people, or not.
We cannot. So, and I'll address the last point first.
Why not?
So, because that would be disturbing human remains, which is a Class 3 felony in the state of Florida.
I think
Furthermore,
you're twisting things, Adam.
No, I think
you're
so.
twisting
I
things.
think
It's-
Let me,
it's-
I'd like to,
No.
I think I'm understanding where you're coming from, and I've sort of known about these interred remains. I wasn't supposed to. It was really gonna be kept, it just
Yes.
wasn't something we were going to announce.
Emphasize.
And that was, and that was fine, and then the hurricane happened. But I wonder about the ethical considerations of letting people crawl all over the top of the mound.
Exactly.
Right. Does that not preclude closing that whole place as ancestral burial grounds.
Yeah, it is different. So one consideration is the exposure of the mound. There's very different. It'd just be like if we went to a cemetery and dug up someone's coffin versus walking around the cemetery. One is a intrusive and traumatizing act, and the other is a neutral event. So
And as a kid, I was told you may walk on the roads in the cemetery, do not step on any grave.
Exactly.
Do not.
Exactly.
So you stay on the road, don't step on a crack, break your mother's
So-
back. I mean,
So we can have an exhibit next to the graves, though.
No, the whole thing.
We don't want
the
to.
whole
We don't
thing
want to
is
walk
whole
on the
mound.
graves, but you don't want. You can have an exhibit next to graves, but you don't want to walk on graves.
By your definition, the entire mound
Mound
is
is a burial
a
ground.
burial site. The
so,
entire mound.
And close
It-
so do we give it back to, give the whole thing back to the Seminoles and the Miccosukee?
Yeah.
And
That's
we lose a whole lot of money and the town pays $1 million back to the community trust.
I think this is one that's not currently something the Seminole or Miccosukee have even suggested. Again, this is the beginning of one of the main ethical points. There are several other points. I think we're getting stuck in the weeds over minute details. And in regards to financial, I would like to finish my point.
Okay,
In regards to forensic anthropology, under federal law, under NAGPRA, tribal affiliation can be proven any number of ways. Forensic anthropology and DNA is just one of the equal values that go into federal recognition under the very complex myriad that is tribal law and tribal affiliation, especially when it comes to repatriation and NAGPRA rights.
So,
Most others being linguistic, historical, archaeological, and oral histories, all of which have been met by the Seminole Tribe of Florida's Tribal Historic Preservation Office and the professional archaeologists and doctorates in archaeology who have proven time and time again that the Calusa, the people who are living on the ranchos, the people who lived on Fort Myers Beach, the indigenous people, and based on the archaeological data made available to the Seminole Tribe, were and are Seminole ancestors.
how can we be sure that they are ancient?
I wanna know
and-
why are you saying no? I just wanna hear your thoughts, Sherry.
I have just always
Into the
been,
mic, Sherry, yeah.
I'm sorry, I have just always been told, through our other directors and people that have, done much research also, that these were remains of people that they really did, they were not Indian remains, that they were remains of people that had been on the mound at some time. And I think we need to verify that.
and that they were white,
And they were white.
and that they had been examined, and that they were white. And this was told to me by somebody who understood about the grave, that whole Negra thing, and,
Yeah, I mean, if there's, that's an easy solve if there's documentation and.
The Seminole Tribe of Florida, again and again, as I've said, have proven cultural affiliation to these ancestors and to
How did they do
Calusa.
that?
How'd they do
How
that?
did they do that?
Yeah.
Oral history, linguistics,
Okay.
geospatial analysis.
All right, oral history.
So-
Oral history,
okay.
I mean,
Oral
people can tell all
history.
kinds
We
of
can-
stories over 500 to 1,000 years.
Under federal law, oral history is an equal validation as DNA testing.
They were not even friends. My
Gee.
God. I mean, we're blowing this all out of proportion.
Yes.
It is, I believe that you want to close the underground, so this is your means of making and using ethics to do it. And I think it's a grave mistake. I like the idea, keeping it natural. Let's restore it and put structure in it. And like you say, have people go down with flashlights and stuff. It's part of the story. And without it, I guarantee, and all of your 522 visitors, how many of them were paid or maybe school children? Because I am a docent, there has hardly been anybody at the Mound House to come and visit. If they come and visit and you tell them that the underground is closed, they'll either leave or they'll ask for a refund. It is I can't explain archaeologically how special this is. And we've devoted many, many years to it. And just to say, oh, we're going to close it because of, and we've never had any opposition or anything from the Seminole tribe ever in the back. And I believe Allison did some research with them, and it was never, ever, ever brought up. So I think a lot of this is construed. And I think without that mound, and it's something that Fort Myers Beach has become famous for, we don't have to do all the lighting, we don't have to do anything. But I think for a treasure like that, just to say, oh, we're going to close it permanently is a grave mistake to the town too, because we are not going to make any money, I can tell you that.
Can we ask if Susan Grace has any further information that she could present?
In public comment, probably.
Only during
Only.
public comment, but if she chose to wait.
She
Yeah.
could choose to speak to an agenda item.
I don't know that
That's okay with council.
You could ask for unanimous consent to proceed out of order, Madam Chair, if you wanted to.
All
Yeah.
right, is it
She's
the
been hard.
feeling of the CELCAB that we go out of order with regard to public comment?
Yes.
Yes.
This one?
Yes.
Okay, then we
And
do
can
have
we remove the
that
3 minute?
consensus?
Barbara, can we remove the 3 maximum per speaker if we so deem?
Because the Graces have been
Yes,
our advisor.
absolutely.
Okay, thank
For
you.
now. Susan, would you like to come up?
I don't know where to start. I think my name is Susan Grace, and
And your association with the Mound
Yes.
House?
my association with the Mound House is I am the widow of the great-grandson of H.C. Case, who built the Mound House itself. Bill, my husband, was very implemental in getting the Mound House purchased, working with the different directors from Arden Arrington to
Teresa and
you know, all the directors anyway. As I said, I don't know where to start. I think one of the things that might clear things up is that I have been in contact with Teresa Schober, Dr. Schober, and she did tell me that Bill served with representatives of the Seminole and the Miccosukee on a committee that was organized per the Florida State Statute 872.05 by then, and then also with the state archaeologist Ryan Wheeler, which some of you may have already met and know him. There was an inadvertent discovery of human remains in the fill surrounding the swimming pool. The outcome of the committee with all these different people was that the reburial of the site following the construction of the exhibit. Teresa was designated steward of the remains until the time of reburial, which she personally did with my husband present in the late 2011 or 2012. She wasn't real sure about whether it was before Christmas or right after. And she said she'd have to look at that. She also said that the underground room was designed for water to rise and fall. Now, we know she certainly didn't expect Ian. None of us have, and she said that she presented that at the Southeastern Archaeological Conference in Williamsburg, Virginia, last Friday, and that she would be happy to come in December. She'll be here in town in December and also in January, and she would love to address CELCAB and clarify some things. Now, I do have one thing that I'm really perturbed with. Adam, did I hear you correctly in saying that Teresa recommended the closure of the underground? I thought you said that she spoke and she recommended closure. Did anyone else hear that?
Yeah,
Okay.
based on her poster presentation, on the poster presentation, it said the underground would eventually have to be closed due to sea level rise.
Well, okay, if everything gets buried, of course. We
She's,
all have to
That-
move off
that's-
the island if sea
that's
level
all I
rise
said.
is too much.
she
Yeah,
said
yeah.
that that was completely the opposite. She did not present it that way, and that she doesn't even know how you would know about this poster because you weren't there. This was just 15 minutes ago. She's very perturbed about this, that you're representing her incorrectly. Gosh, I have so many things. I'm sorry, guys. One of the things that you brought up, and I felt too, is that if you don't know where any other human remains are buried. So the entire site is a burial ground, and it should be then closed, according to your premise.
Do you want me to respond?
No.
I mean, we're playing with atlatls, and we're running around, and we're shooting fake deer, and we're doing all kinds of things, and playing games, and eating picnics, and dropping food, and so
Having galas.
if it's a burial ground, maybe we better not be doing that. I'm going to kind of take another whole shift here. Most or a lot of the funds to restore the Mound House and to do the exhibits and so forth were done through grants. And those grants have strings attached to them. We can't just say, okay, we'll take the money. Oh gosh, we're going to close the exhibit now. That's just not what you do to people, and that's not what you do to grant givers. So we have a responsibility to uphold what we said we would do with that money, and what we said we would do was to exhibit and educate people. I know I've got a lot of other things, but I hope I've made my point here. Thank you.
So Susan, one question though, so when this committee did review the remains, was there a determination of the ancestral category that they would fall into?
No, and they didn't feel that it was necessarily. I mean, I guess I have to tell you that maybe those bones are my husband's ancestor.
Oh.
You know, his grandparents and great grandparents lived there for quite a while. Could be the Gilberts. They homesteaded.
right.
And we know that a couple of their children died early. So we don't know. And
We don't know.
yeah,
We don't know.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
But there are ways to determine
Oh,
the.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
it.
So to say that it shouldn't be done because they have already been claimed, doesn't seem like there's really enough hard evidence that would be admissible to say that they should be claimed by the Seminole as being Calusa remains. We don't know.
Can I move to table this issue until we get further information, or is there people who want to go ahead and, can it also be moved to not approve the staff?
Recommendation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that is your option. I mean, I think that if there's further discussion, clearly, I mean, I think we're well on our way to having everyone express their opinion about exactly what is the right thing to do, not only for the Mound House, but for the town, because we do serve the town of Fort Myers Beach. We want to do what's best for the community going forward. In light of new information, in light of new research, in light of new discoveries, and the fact that Hurricane Ian exposed bones that we were not prepared for, And it brings up a whole new issue about, you know, the authenticity of the bones, the legality of even operating a mound house, knowing those bones are there, brings everything into question. So I think what we're doing today is, as far as I'm seeing, raising many more questions for which we don't have answers. So I think maybe the idea of continuing this conversation or tabling it until we get further along, I think is a good one. So I would certainly entertain a motion if that is what CELCAB wants.
I'd like to hear what Betty has to say.
Yes.
You'd like to what?
Hear what
Betty.
Betty has to say.
Betty, you
Yeah.
have spoken.
Oh, I've been blown away by all of this.
Pull that mic down, Becky, or Betty, I'm sorry. Yeah, there you go.
I've been, I mean, from the very first words that we heard, and that there was going to be a possibility of closing this. I mean, I know that we've had issues, we've had hurricanes, we've had all this other things that have come up. That was not our doing, that was something that Mother Nature, maybe I can call him Father Nature.
Exactly.
It'd be probably more appropriate for the most recent events, that's for sure.
Yeah. You know, and so I've really been awed by everything that was said, and I guess in my heart very disappointed. You know, I mean, it's been frightening to me. This is something that we started many, many years ago. Many of us have been on there for a long, long time, and it's near and dear to our heart. And to be told that it will be gone, to me it was shattering, and really breaks my heart, and that's one reason that I said I want to work on the CELCAB again, because I think it's the gem of our island, and I guess I was just thrown by the comments that were made, and unfortunately I haven't been able to go to some of those lectures, and I know that they've been very educational, and a lot goes into those things, but I'm not sure we're on the right page right now, and this bothers me. And
I
and to
wonder.
hear the
I'm sorry.
comments from Susan and the background that she and her husband have had, I mean, it just kind of shatters my heart.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from.
I'm sorry, I wonder about if we set aside the problem of the remains, which I understand is something that I think we need to deal with somehow, in some way. Closing the underground, what does that say to us who live in buildings that have apartments on the first floor? Get out.
I'll tell you.
Move off Fort Myers Beach. It's not habitable. What are you saying what are you saying? If you close that because of sea level, the danger of sea level rise, without maybe working around the problems of the electricity and the AV and all that other kind of stuff.
Raise it.
And what is the difference between showing a picture of what it looks like, the face of that mound, or going actually inside? What's the difference?
Or walking around on top of it.
Or walking around on top of it? At what point,
Exactly.
if we go further, do they close the whole park?
Right.
Jim, I would love your thoughts.
Well, my questions to Adam were just for clarification, just to better understand the issue. It doesn't appear as if we're in violation of any kind of federal law, but we very well may be. It's certainly a good question for our town attorney. It doesn't appear as if any of these Native American tribes have approached us with any challenges. It sounds like there's some additional information that's come to light to the director. and he's presenting it today. I do believe this island is becoming more resilient with amazing technologies, and given the fact that the Mound House is, there's a dispute about this, but it's either the first or the second highest point on the island. If we can't protect that, then we're in real trouble. And there's a lot of new technologies that are expensive, but probably worth the cost to try to make it more resilient. And I do love this idea of making it more natural and making it more reverent, probably as a result of that. And so there's a lot of opportunity for discussion, and I appreciate your passion on this, Adam. But I think we need to kind of certainly flush this out a lot more, because that underground exhibit is really part of the institution, and there's got to be a way. There's got to be a path where everybody's concerns can be addressed. I think that certainly would be my hope.
Then I'd like to make a motion to table this issue upon further study.
Could I discussion? If we table it, though, what action are we going to take? That's my fear. It'll get lost.
So let's have a few action items as part of the tabling. And that is
Yeah, right.
to get answers to the questions that were raised today.
Well, I was
Right.
speaking with the town attorney, for example.
Yeah, speaking with the
Speak
town attorney, finding out about the possibility of forensic.
I'm sure you got
anthropology.
somebody out at Florida Gulf Coast that could
Well, they've
come
been,
in.
they have been there excavating and helping already, and this issue never came up.
Yeah,
So I think we need to answer those questions. I think to make the assumption that they're the remains of the ancients that's premature. It's premature.
Yeah, and I think sorry to interrupt this conversation, but I think another piece of it, and I think Jim, you had stepped out, is are we able to financially sustain redoing it when we have floods? I mean, the mound, yes, it's the highest point, and everything on top is great, but this isn't on top. So that's just another thing to consider. I'm not saying either way. I'm just saying, you're right, Jim, it only takes money.
What I would
So-
challenge you as a
Yes.
public works director, Jeff, is to contact as many academicians as Adam contacted in his ethical research. And there's probably just as many engineers who might have some interesting insights and maybe some interesting new approaches on how to tackle that. I'm not an engineer,
Yeah.
but there's a lot smarter people than I am out there that may have an innovative solution that maybe we could,
You're right.
that could partially, maybe never solve it permanently because of its unique stature. But, I mean, Ian was very unique, and maybe there's some,
Yeah.
maybe there's some technology out there that.
Yeah, and we're not, I mean,
Yeah.
just like every other property, we're looking at our best
Yep.
options to mitigate any
You're-
cost to the taxpayer.
You're becoming an expert on
dollar.
this through your work, so,
Yeah,
so
so
maybe
it's just-
you're also running into really smart people who have solutions, and
Yeah,
maybe
I mean, we
that's,
could do what Tampa Hospital did and barricade it off, but I'm not sure the taxpayers have that much money.
yeah.
there are
Fundraising.
barriers. We have two concrete walls that are about, 4.5, 5 feet tall on either side.
Yeah.
And there are
That's
existing
reinforced.
barriers that could be shoved in there to stop water.
Yeah, we have
The-
flood-proof doors, but it's coming in from the top and the sides,
Right.
and the bottom.
And the
so-
bottom.
And the
Okay.
bottom.
It's
So
coming
that's
in through the
lifted.
mound.
coming.
So to seal it, you would be
But
closing the
it's my
underground.
understanding, it raises up like a bathtub, so it's not that you have storm surge as in the force of
Right.
the wave.
Correct, there's not as much force.
So
Yeah.
if we
Which-
raised
which
it,
really-
platform,
And
And
I'm
I'm-
just, I'm with you, and I'm also, I'm hearing what Adam's saying, but
I think that the idea put forth of treating this as a natural situation where we use flashlights to point out things,
Yeah.
and then you're not talking 200,000 to redo all
yeah.
right.
the bells
Yeah,
and
we
whistles.
still have to have certain
Oh,
precautions
you
in
gotta have
there,
safety
exit
and
lights,
things like that.
lights to come on,
Yeah,
so.
right.
Possibly
All
I mean,
that-
there are some things, you can't
Exactly.
just totally eliminate it, like, we
Yeah.
don't have to have the AV system, we don't have to have that, but
right.
there are certain safety protocols that we need.
And maybe a platform. I mean, they could step up. We wouldn't have to show the entire show mount if we had,
I think when we are having this conversation about the Mound House, we have to bear in mind that every person, whether they're volunteers or staff, or the principal leaders, the museum directors, did what they did based on the knowledge that they have at the time. And so there's no bad vibe that comes out of any of this. This happened because Ian revealed the bones that all of a sudden started a new conversation that none of us have ever had to deal with before. This is all very new, very disturbing. It cuts us to the core, no doubt. So I think if we've, to your point, getting some new technology, looking additionally at what are the opportunities for using that underground exhibit in a less invasive way with electronics and so forth, might be the best solution overall, but not necessarily, in my opinion, not necessarily saying we need to permanently close it down today. So I would love to see some additional study done. I'd like to know what the town attorney has to say. You know, as far as the Seminoles and the Miccosukees, I think I understand from Adam is that they're not gonna say yes or no. They've merely made this aware to us that we really didn't realize before. So we can take that information for what it's worth. Becky, go ahead.
I'd like to know what might happen if we made the Underhill family or the Gilbert family aware of this and wondered if they were very passionate about claiming the remains, should they be tested to be part of their family?
Good luck finding them.
Oh, we
Well,
found
that's
them.
true.
I mean,
Oh,
we
we
had
know.
a,
We
we had
have-
a.
we have the
a
answers.
How long
Descendants
ago?
Day.
Yeah.
Oh, well, 5 years,
Descendants
but there
have-
were 11 kids.
Okay.
So I'm sure that there's a lot of Gilberts still around.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had them.
Anyway, so do I have a second to my?
Well,
But
would
discussion.
you please state your motion?
My motion is to table this issue until we can, number one, let me stop and say, I'm trying to communicate with the University of Georgia archaeologist, Victor Thompson. And based on their visit in 2022, right before the hurricane, and maybe another one after it, I'm not sure, they're writing a report on it. And that would be something that we would like to look at whenever it comes out. It's not out yet. So anyway, I'd like to see that we get more scientific information about the, what did you say? You had it.
Anthropology?
To table, to get a forensic anthropologist to look at whatever remains that exist, and that we look for other ways to reopen the Mound House for less than the $200,000. It may not include all the bells and whistles, but does give visitors in the presence of a docent ideas of what it's like, what it was like, and all the myriad of types of shells under there, and that we in general try to find ways to keep it open, given financial, given
Ethical.
the NACRA, and given ways of doing that. I don't know if I've said that precisely right.
I'm gonna second that for discussion, but then I'm going to ask about what are the questions we wanna, what you just
Right.
think we
Right,
should
what
follow
else,
that.
what else
But
we
I
need
think we
to.
would have to understand that should the remains be proven somehow scientifically to be Native American,
Yeah.
that
Then,
That's another.
That's
Then
a
that
different
raises an
question.
issue for the entire
Exactly.
property.
it
Exactly.
raises an issue for the
Exactly.
property,
That's true.
Exactly,
That's true.
so.
which,
Yeah,
But
so
every
until-
story we've been told is that they were on the surface
Mhm.
and may have fallen in and gotten,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I've been told when I was writing my book, is I wanted, in fact, I wanted to include a cranium picture. Allison, don't do
don't
that.
do that, yeah.
To avoid issues like this, even if
Yeah.
you could look at it and tell it is not indigenous.
Did you
Further
talk to Dr.
discussion.
Marquardt about that?
Markwart, about,
The remains.
that did not.
Okay.
That did not come up in our discussion.
Madam Chair.
Okay, and yes, I would like it for Adam to respond.
So, if we'll put aside the ethical considerations that we've been discussing, and even the identity of the individuals who are interned there, let's put that aside for a second. As Jeff has pointed out, there is the financial, both in terms of repairing not just the the electrical system, which is about $26,000. There's also the doors, $8,000. The air conditioning unit, $3,000. The lights for safety, like the exit sign. So those are things that should be accounted for in our decision-making process. As well as there has to be light source of some kind for the room for safety. Would the board be in favor of building a new structure next to the museum to house utilities? And where is the electricity going to come from? So these are just considerations.
I'm just suggesting
Then-
that you would make it into a natural space, but much like the Grand Canyon is a natural space. And as far as the exit lighting signs, I would suspect that there might be some portable kinds of things that at the opening of each
Solar.
day, that they be put up, and that they be removed at the end of the day, so that it's a non-issue,
Yeah.
and
They
can be
rent 'em
stored
back.
on
Always we
site
could
And then-
during a hurricane.
And then securing in terms of locks.
Of course, I mean, those things, but those things are minimalistic.
Doable.
I don't think
But-
we can go without
I-
air conditioning and you just have the doors open when you
She-
have people in there.
Right.
Sherry, how long did it take us to get the doors fixed?
Oh,
To fix just the locks? How long?
oh
Yeah.
boy, a couple of years, year
Well,
and a half.
Part of that was because some of us
The-
couldn't open the
We
thing with
couldn't
the
open it
key.
with the key.
Some of us, and I think the doors were put in much sooner than the locks were fixed. Part of that was the whole supply chain.
Yeah.
The whole supply chain. But the other thing is, and I agree, you know, it can't bleed Fort Myers Beach town
Of
dry.
course not.
It can't. On the other hand, as you're looking at the cost of an electric or whatever kind of resiliency that we might come up with, there are a number of things you do I mean, it takes forever to put all the shutters on the house itself. So there are things that could be done in the case of a hurricane coming, that could waterproof,
Yeah.
because you take stuff out. But I wonder, you also have to figure in the loss of income.
Right.
It's the
Yeah.
only thing that puts us apart. And then you take away the puzzles and the digging deeper, and you've lost a whole
Oh,
nother
your-
part,
your whole-
and that leaves the two exhibits upstairs.
Exactly.
And then so that's one consideration. Another consideration is the point you just brought up in terms of revenue. The numbers don't seem to align with the anecdotal information y'all have provided as in your volunteering. The visitors, the data that we're collecting, the staff are collecting who are there when the museum's open, Wednesday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., those 30-odd hours. No one's made a comment about the underground. I've never heard, staff haven't informed me of any refunds or complaints or demands by visitors. Nor have we issued any refunds
I've
from
had people
complaints.
come back, ask
Yeah.
to come back, oh, it's not open now,
Yeah.
we'll come back when it's open.
My staff who've been there for 32 hours a week haven't told me that information, so that's surprising to hear.
Oh, they
Um,
do.
from
Oh,
your-
I'd ask them.
Oh, they do.
Okay, so I'll look into that. Second, in terms of business sense, I think what you brought up is a good point. The underground is a main exhibit. There's no point to visit the museum without the underground. I don't want the underground to close. I love the underground. I don't want to be here making this very impassioned persuasion and doing all this work, and I don't want to put the town or staff or anyone under distress. That's the last thing I want. I love the underground. I think it'd be really cool. Unfortunately, the presence of I said I'd leave it alone, but bodies, but putting that fact aside, but also the logistical constraints. It takes a lot of staff time and energy and a lot of money and planning to reopen the underground. Hurricane Ian was in September 2022. The main museum, thankfully, because of its elevation, like Jim pointed out, at nearly 13 feet of elevation, thankfully the main museum with its 5 exhibits was able to reopen in only a few months in April 2023. However, we couldn't even get the doors fixed to open the underground. Not even an exhibit or lights, just opening it for people to go inside in December 2023. even if we moved forward after every storm, it would still be closed for several months. So there is a concern I have with putting, all our eggs in one basket when it comes to the Mound House experience. It'd be like, I've kind of thought of it like Space Mountain at Disney World. It's a A-list attraction. It's disappointing if it's closed, but there are other things you can do. So I've been thinking, and the staff been thinking, ways that we can diversify the Mound House experience to show the education of the other, parts of the mound. Because, the mound isn't just the underground. It's an amazing profile, rich archaeological data, but
We needed that back.
yes.
Yeah, we needed that.
Comic relief.
Yes. But also ways to install additional exhibits, not just to update the current exhibits with this new research that we've been learning so much with academics from the University of Florida, the University of Georgia with this new research, but also adding new outdoor interpretive signs throughout the grounds to really utilize the entire property. So whenever there is a storm and the exhibit does close, unfortunately, with these more frequent and intense hurricanes, with our underground exhibit, which is only at, I don't know its elevation, but it's considerably lower than the Mound House.
13 feet,
No, the underground exhibit.
13 feet below the type of the height of the Mound House, isn't it? Isn't the Mound House the top of the mound 13 feet?
I've heard that. I don't know an official measurement.
I heard 14.
Yeah.
Is what I was-
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I quoted in the
Well,
book there.
Jim's comment, we're not really quite sure if it's the tallest, so we gotta
Yeah,
measure it.
there's some
So-
dispute whether about it, but I just, on that point though, Jeff, if you would be so kind, because you've now, given your public works hat that you wear, you've met probably every contractor, every builder on this island, you know who the good ones are and who the bad ones are. Somebody's gotta have a good idea through sump pumps and dehumidifiers, maybe they could come up with a system that could work well for that, particularly given a more natural approach to the visitor. There have to be smart people out there that could figure this out.
Yeah, I agree. Those people would probably be making a lot of money on this island if we could figure all that out. I think that's why everyone's supposed to be raising their houses up, so we don't have this. And, I know people that, with the financial burden, they've moved or sold their house because they can't go through this every single year.
Right.
So that, in my mind, I kind of use that analogy, and not that, like Adam said, I don't want this to close. I don't. I love it. I bring people down, we show it when it's actually open. But, we gotta figure out something that works. And I know, yes, we can fundraise, but the town already kicks in around
Yeah.
$550,000 a year on their general fund to support the Mound House, which is amazing. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but at some point, we gotta look at costs and what goes back to the taxpayers too.
And-
So just something to consider. I'm not saying that's what
And-
it is, but
And then just one last point. Again, removing the ancestors, there's still the erosion to the archaeological resources. Each time there's a storm, some of the shell tools and parts that U.S. docents would point out before Ian, before Irma, before Wilma, before Charlie, each time they're gone. So every time the exhibit floods, even a little bit, every time a shell falls, that's more of that history that's eroding away. That original context is being lost, especially with the surface to subsurface flooding. The door that allows you to go. We can't open that door anymore because there's been additional cave-ins from the shell midden collapsing in on the human-made, the modern structures, I should say. So there's going to be continued erosion. So what does this exhibit look like in 10 years after, goodness forbid, 5 or 10 more storms?
10 more storms, we're all gonna be gone.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we
I
can't
would
see that.
contend, I would contend that you're saying it's destruction, and actually, I would say that it's presenting a new profile. And if 10 years from now, it is so eroded that there is no profile anymore, I think that's when we have the discussion. I think it's way premature.
I've heard you both say you really don't want to close it.
But then,
Can you both look and work together to see if you can find a way that we can financially practically and ethically keep it open.
Yeah, I
And you
think
work
that's,
as
I
hard
think
on
that's,
that.
you know, in Adam's opening remarks, he just said recommendation. He didn't say we're gonna do it. You know, this is obviously open, this is part of the CELCAB discussion on closing it. I think there's arguments obviously both ways, obviously, and strong opinions both ways, and how you look at it, and depending on what side you're on, you know, it's like anything else. You have your opinions on it, which is fine. That's great. That's why we have advisory boards.
And then it goes to the council,
Yeah, it's
Right.
to the
council.
And then
duly
this-
elected people
Right.
to
Be
make
the
that
decision makers.
determination.
Right. And are they gonna listen to?
Yeah.
Let me just say, I can't speak for my colleagues, but I sort of can, because I've served with them for a long time now. I would be stunned if they would take any action that would be contrary to the CELCAB recommendation, so they will look to this committee for guidance on this issue.
Thank you.
Yep.
That
And
makes me
and
feel
we
good.
appreciate that
Yeah.
Yes,
confidence
very
that
much.
we've had from
Yeah.
council and also from you in addition, so
Right.
thank you for that.
One thing that we do have in our favor is we have a very prolific fundraising group. The Friends, I mean, we are a very industrious group in our fundraising. And we could hold a fundraiser. I mean, if this got known on the island and other things, I think we could hold a big fundraiser. And I think we could pull in quite a bit of money to help.
Save the underground.
And with the specific purpose that
So,
this is what we're going to do.
This is what we're going to do with that purpose. It's just an idea, but I think that we
Yeah.
could help.
And we have talked mitigation wise of, and I know, looking around, no one liked the idea of another structure on the mound, but even, I'm telling you, I'm talking town-wide and what our facilities, the switchgear at the ball field, it's been underwater so we're actually raising it up onto the second floor. I think you can see that town-wide, everybody's raising it up, our
Right.
generators,
Same.
our
Right. Right.
air
They have to
handlers,
sprinkler
everything.
pumps.
Right.
Are all going up,
You bet.
so, I mean, I think if
You
we
can do
keep having
something.
these discussions, depending on which way it goes, I think there's gotta be some compromise both ways to where we may need to raise it up and put another, but it's just all thoughts, it's all
Right.
ideas right now. But, you know, there are also things that we need to look at and find out, and part of it is doing a little more research on the ethical part, and if that's the case, then I need to have an open mind about that too. Like if it turns out, whatever it is, that, I mean, I really do love the underground. And then we were just talking today about if there's some way to preserve it in plexi or do something. We've been thinking about ways over these past couple of years to really try to make it work with those shells and with the underground. So I know everyone's passionate about it. That's a big reason why you all are on this committee, is because for your passion for Mound House and Newton Park and the cultural aspect of this island. It's a big topic. I understand. I do understand that. And it's not like we've been sitting on our thumbs just like, oh, maybe they'll just let us close it. That's not our thought. And that's not what we want. But we have some factors that we needed to present, and that we need to talk about.
Okay, we have a motion on
To
the table.
table.
It's been seconded by
With-
Betty.
Research
Becky.
and the financial and stabilization and
Looking at ways to keep it open,
ways
to
to
solve some of
keep
the
it
problems.
open
Right.
and funding. So to consider those issues, and we have a second, so.
Yep.
Okay, and any further discussion that we want to table this conversation, get additional information, look at all of the factors, both financial and ethical and legal, and come back in December? Or we could even table this for a January discussion.
I'd like to see it table January.
January, give us
Because it'll
time,
take that
give us
two
time.
months for it to get some ideas and
And
answers.
honestly,
And
it's
who,
the way it's going with contractors and what we need to do to the underground. It's gonna be a while again.
Agreed.
And if
Anyway.
it's longer than January, we just table it again.
Right.
No, I mean, not that, but just, we don't
Nothing is
financially, we don't
fast.
have a lot of money to reopen it as we want it to be,
Well,
so.
and again, I think what the conversation that I'm hearing is based on this new reality, based on the fact that we've had 5 storm surges in a little more than 2 years, indicates to me that our way of doing business with the Mound House underground exhibit was X, we can no longer do X. We are now looking at Y.
Right.
Keep it natural, keep it, you
Keep
can
it open.
walk in,
All that.
you get a sense of the scope of that
And-
exhibit.
and the
but
reverence,
not with the
yeah.
bells and whistles, just keep it simple. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from everyone. Okay, so, we have a motion, we have a second, we have discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, motion carries. Thank
Very
you
good.
so much.
Madam Chair, I apologize. I'm double booked and my bride is critical in terms of my return. So I wondered if I might just,
She feels better.
I might if I just wanted to say just a quick update that I asked Jason Freeman, who's been doing the research on the Newton Park expansion to the Strandview property. We're trying to procure that property through the various land
Is
trusts.
that still active?
Yeah, I asked him to give a report publicly to the council on Monday, and he did so, and they are actively engaged with 2 different land trusts, but he's also found another potential 2 grants that might be able to help the town of Fort Myers Beach procure that land. Nothing definitive yet, but it's a very active process. And they also said it was apparently listed, I think he said 11 million it's listed for right
Yeah.
now, just to give you a sense of
Yeah,
that dollar
and
amount.
I talked to Jason about that as well, and I can discuss that now.
Yeah,
That
Most
would
of
be
those
wonderful.
land trust grants are at the most a couple million. So we either have to come up with a fundraiser or something. And again, like I said, like I've been saying with all the properties and even the pool, we just need the money for it and we'll do it. I mean,
Can I interject here real quick? I know I'm a media guru, but Fort Myers Beach receiving 13 million in federal grants. And Jim, love you to death, and you know that. But you basically said, it was going to Newton and this, and I think it was Bay House. Don't quote me on that, but I know it was Newton was in the article. And now here it is 2 years later, and I'm like going, now it's back to a construction site again, which I understand that we have to fix things, but at the same time, we have $13 million that we were under the impression was going to certain things, and I'm like going, okay, so when are we gonna start working on those things? I know you're working on the pool, which is great. I went and checked all that out, but
give
I'm,
me an update on that.
yeah, okay. So I'm just saying, I just like to know a little more.
it's a great question. I'm so glad Jeff is here because he wears so many hats. But as a result of Helene and Milton, that created additional challenges. But the money is there, Jeff, correct? And you want to just give an update?
Yeah,
for
so
Carrie?
the
It's a good question.
Obviously, we announced the funds where we were awarded for specifics like Newton
Yep.
Park, the pool, and our water towers.
Yes.
So those funds have not, although that we were approved for it, they have not been allocated yet. There's a lot of steps because it's a federal program that we probably won't be allocated until January at the earliest, maybe. So we can't even really start the process until then. We did have, and that's with the pool too. We can't really do anything until we have the money. Now we did is it the R2P2? What were we here for?
That workshop?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
Oh.
was when they had the planners
yeah.
come in and we
So
had that.
they're
almost
ju-
like a
they're just
charrette.
finalizing the report, and they had done a kind of a conceptual thing with input of the general public that was invited for Newton Beach Park, and I think they want to present that. We just got the final one in like 5 minutes before this. I haven't even
Oh.
seen the final report or saw the final report, but hopefully that'll get to council here soon, and then they want to present it to council first.
They
The
do?
whole project.
You mean the aggregate project? And then it'll
Yes.
come piecemeal just through
Correct,
CELCAB? Okay,
correct,
got you,
correct.
okay.
Yep, and then we can talk about if you like the design, if you don't.
I thought we already approved a design at one point. Like, didn't we talk about that? I have to go back and look at my
We
notes.
did, but
Yeah.
we didn't have the funding at that point. I think we liked, it was the conceptual drawing that we did.
Conception.
I
Okay.
think Barbara even
Yeah,
might have
thank
used
you.
her crayon on there.
Yeah.
Right, right.
When we did it with the community meeting that we had for it. But I've kind of seen that one, and I honestly like it, but that's obviously up for you all to have your input on. We believe it's not probably gonna have to your point, so the funds aren't there yet, the 13.1 million. In fact, I just wanna finish that point first. To do that, obviously we can think of ideas and all that, but it's not for us to go forward with it yet. We will have it but funds haven't got to us till maybe January.
So if Strandview is acquired, then would it be basically expanded on so that it would just become,
Yes,
Yes.
all of that
that it
would
would
be
just
much.
be a one big wonderful park?
Jim, were you guys talking about
We
building?
have to reimagine
Yes.
everything again, so.
And get a new name.
There's
And
no
more
point
parking.
in finalizing
That would
something
be
until
fun.
Ellen
November.
Vaughn / Strandview Park. We just need money.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, just Strandview Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, to your point, we did say we are going to receive the money. We have not yet, and they had. I think it was all the way through December that they were still using it as the beach renourishment project. So we, of course, we were ready, and I think last time I reported that we were ready to start putting the restroom trailer in, but then we got another 3 feet of sand on there. So now it's been uncovered that, now a different thing uncovered, not what we were talking about before, that our water line, we can move it to where we want, and put the trailer back there and do the parking, and it's only gonna have like maybe 8 spots there, but the beach access will be there too for now, and then once we get those funds allocated and we do the whole process with CELCAB and looking at the design and what you all wanna see, the swings are included, by the way. I think in their design, that was one of the things we had talked about in that public meeting, so.
Right.
Then we'll go forward with it. And it's one of those things, again, do I want it to be a construction site? No, not at all. Do I want this back here to be a construction site? No.
Well, I just feel like we're missing revenue, and I love the parks, don't get me wrong, but I feel like we miss revenue by not having, parking there, because people are parking there, and people are parking down the street.
Right.
People are parking in front of Bud's old building that are, is about ready to fall down. But, we're missing revenue on that part of it that drives me crazy. That's kind of like, okay, I get it, that we got to have room for construction stuff, but, we need the money. I mean, bottom line.
Yeah, when we plan on doing that, we had to switch out the restroom trailer. I can go into a little detail about that. Both the Palm and this one, it was set up in a strange way where it really doesn't accommodate a lot of sand.
Yes.
So we had to switch out the toilet and put a regular one in for direct sewer, because this had what's that called, impeller, whatever it is that kind of eats up everything. And it
I
kept-
can't
it
do
kept
that.
breaking. It kept breaking. So we have done that. That was done last week, to put new toilets in both. So it's ready to go. Master, that's it. Yep. Thank you.
So those changes.
To put that in,
were
so
made.
so it's ready to go. We have the trailer. We just have to. Our utilities guys are gonna plumb it in. We have to run maybe 25 feet of pipe from the water main, and then hook it up to the sewer, and then so it's still gonna be a little bit of a process, but we're ready to hit that running. And then there'll be, like I said, about 8 spots. We don't want to overload it, and we, with 8 spots and everything too, it takes up a little bit of room. So we're planning on that.
Well,
Again, hopefully, weather permitting, we'll be.
These reoccurring storms have thrown
Just
all
everybody
schedules
off.
off, so
Yeah.
I understand how you could become impatient, Carrie, but the reality is, and I know you're dealing with your condo place as well, we're all behind schedule with our lives while we deal with the storm du jour, for heaven's sake. I mean,
We
there
understand
have
that
been,
it's
there have been
interrupts.
Right.
five storm surges in 2 years and 3 months.
Right.
I mean, that's outrageous.
And I can tell you,
Unprecedented. Yes, Jerry.
We were just talking about, something came to my mind when we were talking about Newton Park, is what someone suggested to me, and I've heard it mentioned on television, is maybe considering with grants, but as far as it being a park and playground equipment and stuff, I wonder if we've ever thought of putting something specialized in for autistic children.
It's not part of our mission, though.
Yeah.
The mission,
Yeah.
that's a passive
you're right.
recreational
Yeah.
park that
Well,
is,
I don't know, it's just something
Incorporating
that's
that-
becoming more,
but
and
that's a good point, because we've been talking about beach accesses too, and putting, this
Something
fitness, National Fitness Court has been wildly popular. I mean, there's people out there
A lot.
every day in groups of them, and putting certain things
Really
at
good.
each beach access, like equipment, some of those freestanding things like Lakes Park has. you know, maybe doing that at some of the beach accesses, but yeah, I mean, incorporating those there too would be good. I like that
As long
idea.
as long as it's recreationally based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the swings,
Well, they have swings,
you know, I
they
think
have certain.
That's
Yeah.
recreational.
And I-
Yeah.
these swings aren't gonna be playground swings.
No, these are arched, so they have an artistic value to
Yeah.
them, and you're obviously
Yeah.
watching the sunset where you're swinging out into the ocean.
Yeah.
It's my dream.
And I can tell you that we were down there, my family did family pictures down by Newton, just by the water, and my son had to go to the bathroom real bad, and I went, man, I wish we were there too. So then I had to run him over to Publix, and so, yes, we know that, you know, to your point, it's been a construction site, and it's interrupted, like everyone else, it's interrupted people's lives, and, you know, unfortunately,
Well,
it hasn't been the greatest situation, but it is the hand that we're dealt, and if we had other property, if we had stuff we could bring over to Lover's Key, you know, but when we're in an emergency, we kind of have to do what we have to do, and unfortunately it affects people, and I apologize for that, but, it's just been a little delayed to put that back together, but we want that park back.
You're certainly getting a PhD in dealing with emergencies.
Unfortunately,
bringing that
yes.
up, though.
Yes.
It's been
Yes,
definitely,
thank you.
thanks, Jim. It's been,
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
it doesn't get easier every time. I mean, just the amount of sand that's coming on, and, you know, the destruction it does every single time. And I think we've been trying every avenue to, you know, not get water in any of our buildings. But, you know, we spent the night. That sounds weird, but the town manager and I were here that night. We didn't spend the night together.
Really? Do tell.
We spent we were here during Helene, and the water came up to, you know, almost to the top of the trailers, to the base of the trailers, and we were like, what if this keeps coming? What do we do? What do we do? And we were during Melton, we're like, no, we will not do that again. Like we're advising people to get off the island. We need to do the same.
Yep.
You know, we don't want to be a part of this, part of the problem that
Right.
someone might have to go. So, yeah, even those little things like, oh, we're heroes, we're gonna stay. And I'm not saying we're heroes, but you know that we need to be on the island. Well, for Melton, we were on water receding. We were on by like 12:30 in the morning. So, and it was fairly safe to to be on here. But we were just trying to clear the roads. But yeah, it's been we've gotten education for sure.
And you did well.
All new.
Try our best.
Okay,
I mean,
let's-
there's always critics, but
Let's move on. We've got collection storage on our agenda.
Yes.
And going back to Adam, you've all received the information with regard to the, collection storage plan of 24-25. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to read through it.
Yes.
So, with that, Adam, you wanna just go ahead and
Oh, I didn't get
jump in? You got this via
inside of
email.
that.
It's in an email.
You got it in
There
an
are
email
copies
about a
in
week
here.
ago.
Okay, they're together, they're halfway through, okay.
It's not,
Remove
it's
my,
this
oh, the storage tank.
Did you not print out this?
Which one? No, this is just the using the, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
see, yeah.
Okay, take it away.
All right, so just to, because it's been a while in terms of a review of the collections. So just in terms of just going through this handout, what is in the collection? Our collection is a vast majority of indigenous artifacts from the Calusa and Rancho period, over the course of 6 archaeological excavations that were conducted over nearly a decade in the early 2000s. There are some documents about the town, Mound House films, there's some microfilms, records, there's some historical decor as well. If you look on the second page, titled "Where is the collection currently?" That is a photograph of our current collection storage. The photograph on the right, that is the workspace for the town's museum registrar in the collection storage. The location is 45 minutes drive without traffic off I-75. And there's no cell service or internet service in this current space, which is a safety hazard for not only the collection, but also for Brianna and any staff there. There's no security for the collection, let alone pest mitigation or other factors to take care of the collection. There's no temperature control, and the light goes off automatically every 5 minutes. So Brianna has to run out into the hallway and dance around in front of the sensor to have lights to write and catalog. The artifacts are currently in their original grab bags when they were excavated. It is best practice for artifact bags to be changed once a year. Or excuse me, not once a year, for the artifact bags to be changed when there's signs of deterioration. There's photos on later on, but there are several of those original grab bags that have deteriorated where the plastic has dissolved from the acidity of the soil that makes up the archaeological collection.
Wow.
And there's also a lot of that original data that many of y'all were a part of in starting to catalog and identify those archaeological collections. A lot of those markers that were written on the bags have faded away to near illegibility, and with it, the data. So, sorry to say, the collection is in poor condition and is in danger, very, very big danger. So I brought this initially to y'all in June 2024,
You remember?
where it was tabled. And I took that feedback and we modified the plan to not touch the living room. You remember my original plan that I proposed in June, I proposed switching basically the bathroom into the living room,
Yes.
putting the
Yep.
living room in the storage and putting what storage into, so doing kind of a rotation. I don't know how else to say it. So upon hearing your concerns and your guidance, we revised that plan not only to take out one of those rooms from that equation, so the living room, it's not being touched or moved in this plan, but the new plan is to basically build a temporary shelving area on top of the replica bathtub, so we don't have to touch or move the bathtub, thus saving money, time, and then leaving it there. So in the future, if we get $3 million to build a collection storage building next to Mount House, which would have all the bells and whistles of a quarantine room, pest mitigation, a closet for storage, we would be able to reinstall the bathroom exhibit or whatever exhibit we wanted, but the bathtub would be there. Basically, we would only be removing the sink, which is kind of just sitting on top of the tile. It's not really connected in any strong manner. I think there's like a couple screws holding it to the wall so it doesn't fall over.
Not plumbing, obviously.
No, it's not
because
plumbed.
operational.
Exactly. So removing that, placing that safely in collection storage, and being porcelain, it doesn't face the same conditions that the archaeological collections or the archival collection, like the original Gilbert deed, which is just in like 2 folders put together because we don't have the material to properly house it. That original homestead deed, it's actually just sitting on a box on top of the collections currently, because that's the best place we have for it, unfortunately. That's not the right answer, but that's the best we have right now. So in this plan, we're hoping to make the situation better. So basically, as I said, removing the sink and removing the kiosk and removing the 2 magnifying stations. I guess I'll put them like that way. Moving the sink and one of the kiosk to temporary storage. Moving one of the kiosk and updating it to have a little bit more resources and pictures of the archives that we have, some of the collections, some more educational components. The town currently uses this program. You may have seen if you came into the museum, there's a rotating slideshow of upcoming events above the ticket counter. That program has a great opportunity to be also for an educational experience,
right.
to kind of update that kiosk instead of just the point and click system. Well, sometimes point and click. It is, it's 10 years old, so it's starting to show its age. In fact, both the kiosks are currently not functional. There's just numerous reasons, mostly technological. So and then moving those two magnifying glass stations into the Ancient Peoples exhibit. So still tying in together the archaeology and the Ancient Peoples exhibit. And then with this new, almost empty room, again, the bathtub's still there, being able to place shelving, not drilled into the walls or drilled into the tile in any way, but metal shelving that's insulated and protected that wouldn't cause rust or deterioration or further vices, as they're known in collections management, on the collections. And there's enough room to install this shelving, self-standing shelving, as well as having, you can see on the last page, there's a diagram of it, yes. On the second to last page, you can see kind of a rough illustration. The only difference is that shelving on the right will be moved up because, again, the bathtub will remain. And there'll be a workstation, and then we'll install a door that matches the exterior of this two closets, so it blends in nice. And the only exception is it would have a large, for lack of terminology, we're still researching the best material, plexiglass window, so visitors can see not only the collection and help, engage people, educate people, get people excited, and, see Brianna working. No songs or dances probably, but at least working on the collection and seeing preservation in action and archaeology in action. And which also opens not only a place for the collections to be in a safer environment. Again, it's not the best option, but it's not the perfect option, but it's the best option. Because again, the collection's in very poor condition, and our goal is to create a stable storage environment for the collection, an efficient workspace for our museum staff and visitors and volunteers, and also utilize it as an additional stream of revenue for the museum with behind-the-scenes tours. It'll be probably the shortest walking distance of the tours we offer, but it would be an additional behind the scenes of seeing, what's Brianna currently working on, what is she cataloging, and there's a huge amount of our collection that it's extremely fascinating that Brianna can start working in a safe environment, not just for her, but the collection as well, that would not only have us allow us to have an inventory and a proper collection and actually accession some of these things, which would not only be good for possibly future exhibits down the road, for if there's an excess of material or a material is, we have this pottery shard, but we have this pottery shard as well, and this one's kind of cracked and not as nice as this one. Museums have what's known as education collections, where they're real artifacts that can be used for educational purposes, or maybe for researchers, University of Florida, University of Georgia, around the world, they can come in and we can designate some of the collection as for research purposes. And it opens up a lot of exciting opportunities to really exciting opportunities to move the museum forward and really get to show off this amazing collection that we have that's mostly archaeological and some of that archival material as well, to show really that full scope of 2,000 years of history. So that's the current plan. And then basically it's going to be less than $3,000 to implement all this, and will be well worth it just in terms of meeting our strategic goals and having a collection, because without a collection, museums aren't, it's hard to call yourself a museum without a collection.
And this is actually something that should have been done at the outset, so glad we're jumping in. I have a question though about
Yes.
this diagram for the use of this space. Who came up with the drawing?
That would be the historic maintenance worker too, Seth Jacobs.
Okay, I just.
Yes.
Right, I just wondered if this is the best utilization of space, so I'd love to get like an architect or someone who understands space planning to see if this is the highest and best use of where these shelves and cabinets go. So, because I noticed that part of this is obscuring even some of the windows, and I
Yes.
just was not quite sure why that would be.
Obscuring the windows?
Right.
Yeah, so I did forget to mention, so we're basically going to cover the windows in a UV protection film. So windows let in light, in addition to, rain, wind, all that fun stuff. but the light is an issue as well. So we're actually going to be covering the windows in one, a UV protective film, and then two, basically a material that can be placed on. It's almost like an indoor shade kind of thing.
Okay. But again, it's, you know, like, say, for example, there's one to the lower right where it says 9 feet, 11 inches? I'm not quite sure what I'm seeing here.
Which,
I think it is.
oh,
It's 90 inches, isn't it?
90 inches.
90 inches. Okay,
90
90
inches.
inches.
Yes.
Again, you know, because you're talking about obscuring the window, but that'll still send in some ambient light, right?
Oh no, we would obstruct the windows.
Yeah, they're gonna cover it completely.
You're talking about blackout lighting.
Yes.
Blackout,
Yeah.
In a sense, yes.
not just like ambient light.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So the only
Kind of
light will,
what you're talking about, like right behind you,
In a way, yeah.
in a way, but even more.
even more.
Yes.
So you're basically rendering these windows totally non-usable in any way.
Not non-usable when it's not nothing permanent. Just like that blind isn't
Right.
permanent.
Right.
There's
It's just a
blackout
big.
blind.
It's just a big blind, or it's a big curtain, basically.
Yeah, it's a blackout blind, so yeah.
Yeah. So totally reversible. That's the goal: preservation, not destruction.
And just, we kind of got a little bit lucky as well. We had some funds that were, I don't want to say leftover, but we were being conservative with the town. So we had, it wasn't a lot, it was, you know, a couple, like, I think $30,000 that we could kind of play with, and it has to be allocated by the end of this year.
Fiscal year, yeah.
Not
Or
fiscal
the
year, the
calendar year.
calendar year. So
Calendar,
we're talking like
okay.
a month and a half, you know?
Wow.
So we kind of got lucky that we were talking about this, and we had these funds available, so it won't come out of our budget
Great,
per se. And it's kind of one of those things we either use the funds or we lose them.
yeah.
So
This is a done deal?
the funds would be.
The funds, this is a recommendation.
And we've got 2 months to do something,
To allocate the funds.
to allocate, okay.
Yeah, if we can get a contract in place, no matter if we have to get an architect in or something, to be able to use that $3,000, we have to have something signed by the end of the calendar year.
I think
Yes,
to your
and-
point, Becky, though, the issue here is that, you know, this is a storage plan, yet on the agenda, it talks about collection storage, but it doesn't talk about board action. So is this a recommendation
Right.
from staff to CELCAB? That's the
That's what we
question
like.
that we're raising, because, I mean, I think personally, for me, it certainly makes sense. I like the fact that you're not removing the bathtub. It was always in our strategic plan to have rotating exhibits. So it doesn't mean that if there's a perfect place for this collection in the future, that we could maybe reinstall the bathroom exhibit or put something else new in. So it gives a lot of options. But for the safety of the collection and the accessibility of the collection going forward, to me, this seems like a good plan. I would have liked the storage to happen upstairs, you know, at the town hall, if you remember, that was.
That was
where we
back
were
discussed
leaving
in
it.
June when I went back and looked at my notes. That's exactly right.
That was in June, and that was kind of the way it was left, and now
Exactly.
this is a new plan, so.
This is the old plan. And then town hall happened, the purchase. Last I talked to Adam about it, yes, there would be a place in town hall.
Right.
And I guess my bullet point is closing another exhibit. Yes, it could be, we're standing at a very narrow door, or you've got people walking in and all around, and people with hands and breathing, and the windows are not sealed, they would have to be sealed, you can see light through there. And then the roof leaks. We've had a lot of roof leaks. So I don't see that this room is as safe as town hall might be, the new one. That bathroom, certainly, I really like the idea of other exhibits being used in that room, which is a little bit of wasted space.
Agreed.
But the room at town hall, for the cataloging, which is a really boring thing. So frankly, if I were gonna go in there, I mean, if I'm there, I'm monopolizing anybody at the desk if there are no visitors. I'm monopolizing Adam if he walks through, or Karina if she walks through, because I'm bored and nobody's there. And I'm just seeing docents standing up there going, so hey, Brianna, how's it going? Or visitors coming in and saying, well, what is that? Most of the artifacts are little bits and pieces of pottery and shells. So what I wonder is, given the covering of the exhibit of the pipe, are those things not, if they're part of a burial, are they not visible? I think that has to be settled. You know, are they part of this burial ground? Does that not have to be settled first?
So that's a great question. I don't. Well, I get several questions.
Yeah.
I guess in regards to the pipe in question, so the pipe kind of came in under the same effect of the rule change. So under the advisement of the town attorneys, there is certain steps we have to take to ensure that we have the consent of the affiliated communities, the Seminole Miccosukee, to display this pipe. So the first step is to submit a holding summary to the Department of Interior. The town has never done that in 25 years. That we have Native American collections, which is a requirement under federal law. Brianna did that about a month ago.
Oh, good.
That she filled out the holding summary. And to our knowledge, there's only one item in question that meets the new kind of reinterpreted parameters of this rule change that took place in the beginning of the year under, it's kind of a vague term, and because it means so many different things to different tribes. You know, there's 574 federally recognized tribes, so, you know, it depends on which tribe you're talking to, but it's cultural patrimony. So basically an object used for cultural or religious or ceremonial purposes.
Not the bowl?
No. So the bowl, based on archaeological knowledge, mostly utilitarian. You might recall Florida is known as the Tupperware state amongst pottery ceramics experts. But the pipe, that's something that is an item typically of cultural patrimony for tribes in the southeastern United States. So based on the recommendations of the lawyer, yes, I did cover the pipe that's on display until we have
Everybody looks under the sheet, so.
and that's unfortunate that, you know, and that's part of the reason. I mean, where are we going to put it?
And the room actually at Town Hall would be smaller than what's up there.
But the room up, the bathroom is going to be open for visitors.
It's not. There's going to be a lock. There's going to be a door. There's going to be visible. There's going to be a window for visitors. Brianna's going to be on display, basically. So visitors won't be able to go inside. Brianna will be the only person with a key.
Okay.
That ensures
It's like one of
safety.
those behind the scenes kind of things where you pay extra. We wouldn't charge extra.
I
But
would hope not.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna
But
look
I
in a
mean,
window
there are
this
people.
big.
There are people that pay for behind the scenes tours. This is just going to be open, kind of like that, where you can see people actually doing the work. I love history. I always have, and I love going and seeing that.
Will there be a large photograph of the bathroom outside so people can see?
Well,
I mean, it is very interesting as to why Jack Delisle built a house he never lived in and had a 225 square foot bathroom.
well,
I always ask people,
Well,
what do you
that's-
think that was for?
What do you suppose?
well,
Got any theories?
well,
Unsolved mysteries.
I see another book is coming.
well, that's where we direct them to the museum store and upsell them on your book to learn more.
No, there are details like that we can definitely.
Yeah,
Oh,
I-
definitely document the
Yeah.
exhibit
Yes.
before it is dismantled.
and again, the bathroom's still there. The tile will still be there, and that story, just like we talk about, you know, the case in Long family, and there's no bedrooms. You know, we tell that story. We have the living room, and we have, but you know, that's it. You know, we talk about how it was a post office. We don't have, you know, mailbags sitting around, so there's a lot of stories that we currently don't tell. I mean, we don't have any cheeky huts on the mound. We don't have any, you know, rancho fishing nets strewn up. So there's a lot of things we don't
We
have.
do have rancho fishing nets.
Not-
in
not-
the exhibit?
Not currently. I mean, there's the Clusa one, but there's not one for like the Rancho period per se, on like the grounds.
Aren't they the same?
No, slightly different eras. So, yeah.
Let's
So there's
see
a lot of
what they
things.
use right now.
There's a lot of possibilities. So, but basically, again, this is the focus of the preservation of the collections. You know, as I said, the collection is in pretty bad
It's
condition,
terrible, and you are so right to be working on this.
and
Needed to be done.
Yep.
so there, in regards to town hall, it's, you know, even without traffic, it's still 2 miles away, and that removes Brianna from the team, and that limits her ability to collaborate with the educators, Franklin and Ashley, on developing programs. It removes the artifacts even more from visitors. It's going to be really hard to, anywhere at town hall, there's going to be, it'd be like trying to lead a visitor back through here. It's going to be through offices where other sensitive town information, financial records, people's private information might be on display. So that seriously hinders our ability to share the collection. It hinders our ability to have a stream of revenue through behind the scenes tours, behind the scenes talks. By going into the exhibit, Brianna can bring out special things that she's working on and explain it. So to add an extra level of things, just like, people can go self-guided at the Mound House, or they can take guided tour at the Mound House. We give that option. And the guided tours add that stream of revenue. And, vibrations and movements, every step, every movement you do with an artifact puts it at risk. So taking it from a box off a shelf at Town Hall, placing it on a table, removing the artifact from that box at Town Hall, placing it in a carrying container, walking it downstairs or down the elevator through the Town Hall lobby, through the first floor where people will be coming and going,
Lots of
walking
fun.
to the parking lot, placing it in a vehicle, driving down Estero Boulevard, in a perfect world, a 10, 15-minute drive, but in season for 3-4 months out of the year, an hour.
It is.
So then getting to the mound house, offloading it, walking up the uneven, it's slightly uneven mound, going into the museum, going upstairs to show a visitor, or rotating an exhibit, or rotating an artifact for exhibit changes. So by reducing those steps, both physical walking steps and also procedural steps, we're also better ensuring the collection isn't further damaged than it already is.
Are you confident that everything that is currently in storage for our collection will be appropriately housed in this one room?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was in probably a smaller storage, U-Haul storage before, so this will give it a little more room to.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna have sufficient drawers for all of these to be safely stored? Then, because I was looking at your diagram and I didn't see.
Yeah.
Are you having like museum collection, trays, for example?
For the more sensitive objects, yes.
Okay,
But for
you
things
will
like
have those.
the shell midden material, no, they'll be more in bins by themselves.
Okay.
But the specific artifacts like pottery sherds or deer bone pens, things like that, that would be kind of phase 2 in terms of once Brianna starts cataloging and, removing the pottery shards and the shells from the piles of rusty nails and metals. Because a lot of bags are labeled shells. Some bags are labeled metal. Some bags are labeled shells, metal, and pottery shards, and it's just a bag of fun. But you have to. Some are bags of bags of bags. So there's varying challenges
So
that moving forward.
ultimately, though, when you get everything cataloged and have your collection, your inventory of acquisitions, and get them professionally accessioned in the first place, we have to have that policy. But when I'm looking at buying additional equipment that actually professionally stores these artifacts in bins of some kind.
Oh yes, That's
And
ready to
that's
be
what
ordered.
that funding
Yeah,
that
that's
Jeff
where
is
that's coming
talking
from.
about
Yep,
will
it-
provide. Okay, if we can make that purchase before the end of the year, then we'll have that in place.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
we
Okay.
just need to know where it's going.
Well, yeah, because that's gonna eat up the 30,000 right there.
Yep.
Those things are pricey.
Yes, yes. Gaylord gets their Gaylord
Okay.
Archival is a large archival company.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's the level of the storage that you're talking about.
Yeah, so basically the
Okay.
$3,000 will cover this custom door that Seth is building that will secure the collection behind a lock that only Brianna will have a key to, which ensures safety. If anyone's ever worked in a large company with risk management steps, you'll have limited access for those. If something goes missing, sorry Brianna, what went missing, we'd go straight to her, because it is a huge responsibility to be in the position that Brianna's in.
And will she actually have a work desk in this where she can
She'll have
access her data?
Yes, she'll have a working table. So her full desk will be next to Franklin and Ashley, where it currently is in the office. But there will be a workstation for her to have
Okay.
enough room to catalog, sift, sort, inventory, catalog, build custom housing through specialized materials.
Okay.
All the
good.
above. Have a array of collections, do collection handling trainings for staff members.
So where will her office be? Just a question.
So
I mean,
her main office will still be where it is now.
Right.
But that large square in the middle, the working table,
Okay, that would be where she could put a laptop.
a laptop,
Okay.
and then inventory and
Okay.
start
Yeah,
sorting.
She needs to have something on site
Yes.
here, I would agree.
Yes,
door
and
being built?
and if she's lucky, a chair.
Yeah, chair.
The door being
Okay, so moving along, my personal opinion is that I think this is a great plan. I believe it'll be a great educational opportunity. And I know that it's not on the agenda that we have to vote on this, but I believe we should. So I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve this storage plan.
Are you making the motion?
No, I'm not.
I'll make the motion.
All right, so Pat, you
I'll
will,
second it.
and then you'll second it, that's Betty Simpson. Further discussion.
I am, Adam deserves great kudos for starting this out because there was so much about museum collections. I had no idea. I'm the one who loaded the boxes into the back of the van and took them to the first storage. There's a bunch of bags. I don't know where all the paper stuff went, but it was not handled well. There was no paperwork, so great kudos.
Yes.
I don't see the educational value. It's a value for Brianna to be on site. We lose another room of the exhibit, a little window showing what she's doing, writing down, looking at this, knocking on the door, going, "What are you doing in there?" I don't see that as a wonderful education sort of thing. I also don't think that once it happens, the bathroom would ever be restored. The bathroom would be used for additional exhibits. They've never done what they should have done with the kiosks. We have a lot of written material and stuff that could have been put on that computer, and that was said in the very beginning that, oh yes, they could do that. It just never happened, which is absolutely not Adam's fault. Anyway, my vote would be for putting it at town hall, bringing things over. You got
Changing
problems.
exhibits.
You got problems with the mound house roof, with the, with everything there. Okay, that's it for me.
Okay. Other discussion?
So I have no background in this other than
Yeah.
having been in the back rooms of museums when I did some projects when I was at University of Michigan.
Okay.
And the Natural History Museum in Michigan was ancient. It was beautiful architecture, but not very effective as a museum. They built a new museum, and they created a space so that you could see the inner workings of what they were doing. Of course, they're working on big stuff. And they had an interactive way of, you could push a button, and then the microphone would go active into that room, so you could interact with them. Now, I understand that your concern is about Brianna being interrupted by people. We could train a docent to stand up there and answer questions.
Which she's very enthusiastic about involving docents in these projects, not just in the cataloging, but also the education and the tour part.
I think Becky's concern about the roof, though, I think is valid.
I think you would need actually 2 windows in that door. One
think the
about
whole-
3 feet high and one about
Oh,
5.5
there
feet
you
high.
Can the whole
Yeah,
door be
that's true.
flexible?
And the whole
It will.
door,
It will.
The whole door will be
the
flexible.
whole door is plastic?
It's
Thought
going
so.
to be. It's gonna be like one rectangular.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
How big?
I don't have the measurements in front of me.
Is the door being built as we speak?
No, it has to be. Funny enough, it has to be custom ordered because the
Okay.
dimensions of the door frame on the bathroom is. Let's just say they use some fractions. It's a custom
Okay,
parameters, so we have to order a large enough surface, and then staff are kind of building the door
One
with
last
the gift
question.
material.
Could you move that kiosk where they had all the old pictures and everything
Yeah,
down into the large assembly room?
in the orientation gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking initially of like the I don't know what to call it, the stairwell hallway where those windows are.
Yeah.
I was thinking there,
Somewhere down there.
or even the living room maybe, because there's photographs of the Case family, Case living room.
Oh, yeah.
So could those kids be on rollers so that you could move them into the orientation room when there wasn't something going on, and then when there was something going on, move them out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
They
yeah,
have to work.
anything's
They're just
possible.
cabinets, so
They could be put on
they
wheels.
put casters on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty strong over there at Mound House. We can lift
Okay.
them.
but they would have to work. Right now it is
Yeah, they don't work.
not
Right.
working and it's
Correct.
not real effective as,
Correct. And the town recently has a new program. Bay Oaks was using it. Mound House uses it. It's mostly being used right now at Mound House as a like an info kiosk that shows like upcoming programs, the membership, things like that. It can easily be made as an educational component. So upgrading.
I mean, but above the desk in the,
Or
in
could
the
it be
store?
put in the desk?
Or to put
Could
in the
that monitor
kiosk?
be
In the
changed
kiosk?
In the
to-
kiosk.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
gonna
Yep.
be
So
changed up.
so it can be on a
It'd be
phone.
modern
It can,
technology.
okay.
we just have to buy the right screen and
Right. Make it look
update
old.
basically that's it. It's just a screen with a Wi-Fi connection. We don't even need a computer. It's all updated through a back end,
All wireless.
like a website. Because currently we pay for the kiosk, because currently the website of the Mound House has its own domain, and then you can actually check it out right now, kiosk.moundhouse.org.
Oh,
That's a second domain that we're currently paying for, or rather, the Friends are generously paying for. So that would save the Friends $2,000 in their contribution to Mound House to other endeavors. Because right now we pay $2,000 a year for the domain kiosk.moundhouse.org
That's a crazy amount of money. to
That's
pay
a
for
lot
A
a
lot of money
use
for
that.
a domain name.
for
The
the
domain
for the
name costs
kiosk.
like $20 a year.
Wait, for the kiosk has to have a can I go on my phone and look at what's
Yes,
in the kiosk?
kiosk.moundhouse.org.
Okay, I'm
I would
sorry.
think of
Had
it kind
no
of like a big
idea.
app.
It's
Oh, it's an app that you're buying,
Kind
and that's the
No.
domain that's doing the.
it's the domain and then also the registration and a couple other things to house it on a server.
Why have we never heard of this?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't know.
I didn't
Never,
either.
no
I didn't either.
idea.
Right.
I didn't
Come on, Mr.
not until
President.
not until their friends helped me in finding a new website developed to upgrade the Mound House website. Did the website developer say, hey, you're paying for 2 domains, right? Because the thing in the kiosk is a domain. I said, it is? He's like, I mean, I'll do it for free because, it's shouldn't be paying that much, but I'll house it for this year. So,
But it's $2,000 for a
It ain't
domain
gonna
is
hurt.
crazy.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
insane.
that's
Yeah.
turns
I mean,
out that's what we were
That
paying
is.
for all these years.
It's too
Yeah.
much. I mean, they should be like, last time I checked, they were like $19.95.
Yeah, it's more than the domain, it's other things as
Oh,
well,
but
but
still, that's an absurd.
I think it's
amount
mostly
of
the server housing.
money. That shouldn't be that much money either.
I agree.
Yeah, that's.
But this
No,
one,
that's
this one's
because
really
they're
cheap.
counting on you not knowing.
I know. So that's an added benefit. So we can upgrade the kiosk, as well, since we're all doing this. And ideally, not to rush anyone, but with season coming up, we were thinking as staff of closing the museum to the public for a 2-week period to do this plan, to implement this plan before traffic gets bad. And then also to repair the ceiling in the living room and things, so just everything all at once, and we're all ready for visitors in January.
okay, and what dates are you thinking about doing that?
December 8th,
Uh-huh,
the week of December 8th and the week of December 16th. So I think it's the 21st.
That's cool.
So,
Yes.
closing the museum. The grounds will be open. Kayak tours will still be on. We'll give return passes
Oh.
for people who have booked a kayak tour, and we'll explain it whenever they book it. Hey, just so you know. So we'll have that element covered. But in terms of the building itself, since we have to fix the ceiling and the gift shop and the ceiling, might as well
Do it all.
do one big close and interruption instead of two in museum store. So
Kiosk.moundhouse.org.
Yeah,
Question
That's
with
pretty
regard
slick.
to this
that
plan.
is, that is really good.
it is really cool.
If we've approved.
I didn't know it
voted
until
to
today.
approve
I never heard
This
of
plan,
didn't know
that
either.
includes the $960 a year for the archival database?
Uh,
We'll have
that
that anyway, right?
yeah, we have that anyway. We already have that line item
Okay, so
for something
this
else.
is not a new line item, this is just extending.
This is basically what we're going to use to do the work we're
Okay.
proposing. This
Okay.
collection management system.
And the funds to do this are already
Yes.
allocated.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
coming out of technically office supplies for the town for the Mound House budget.
And the other stuff for the actual collection is coming from
The extra money.
ARPA funds that we had left over.
Okay,
Yes.
That need to get
great.
spent.
But we-
that need to get spent.
Tomorrow morning, I'll have Karuna
Okay.
firing away on.
So we have a motion and we have a second and we've had discussion. I'd like to call the vote, if I may. All in favor of approving the Mound House Collection Storage Plan for 2024-25, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Me.
None? Oh, yes, Becky Warner opposes for all good reasons.
Just the location,
I
not
get
the
it.
theory. Can Brianna put some of these pictures and some of these artifacts
The
on that kiosk as opposed to pasting to the inside of the plexiglass window? I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah, eventually our goal is to expand outreach, not just at the Mound House with like printed photos.
I mean, I've been
But
yelling
we
at people
also-
for years to get more on the kiosk.
Yes.
You know, where's the blessing? Where's the letter from who? Where's
Yeah.
the letter from?
No,
But
I
it
love.
never happens, so I'm gonna hold you to it.
Please, I know you will.
Yes, you do.
My door always gets unlocked with you.
And to Adam's point, we are going to try to do more things town-wide. So whether it's obviously Newton, we're going to put some kiosks or not kiosks, but QR codes where it might have what the Newton cottage looked like or whatever we decide to put in there. Just an example, and then you can scan a QR code and it'll tell you all the history that you need. It'll,
Okay, great.
and then even at the park here, Adam and I have talked about when we redo Bay Oaks Park, is putting kind of town-wide kiosks about history about the town and things on the walking path. So they'll get it not only at Mound House and Newton, but also at the parks as well.
On all
Good,
town
that's
properties.
great, good, that's great.
A minor thing, but when you do the documents of any kind, whether it's a collection manager, could you number the pages?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Yes, I apologize.
That would be very helpful,
Yes.
going forward
Yeah.
with virtually everything.
Yes.
It just makes it easier, so.
I will.
Appreciate that, okay. Moving on, member items, we're gonna start with Pat.
Yeah, Adam, could you, talk about, basically the email you sent to Ellen telling me not to wear any Mound House garb, shirt, anything to give a talk to the Southwest Florida Archaeological Society? And why you didn't write that to me?
Yes, I can. So Ellen and I had a conversation about it, and that kind
Who?
of Ellen.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ellen and I had a conversation about that
before
After.
you did it?
after.
After.
After, and I realized it was not very delicate of me, and I never intended to offend anyone. And as Ellen said, email is not a good way to handle things, and it came over a little bit in terms of miscommunication over the roles and responsibilities between staff and volunteers and Friends members. And the Friends of Mound House is a joined but still separate organization that came out of discussion with the map peer reviewer in terms of governance. So in terms of, getting to know like who's on first. So making sure we're not, what's the word? I guess double booking or us trying to reach out to like the Southwest Florida Historical Society or IMAG where you're speaking, and then we're talking to the friends, and then also trying to clarify some communications, because sometimes I hear about things because people inform Ellen of problems at Mound House, and Ellen forwards them to me, like with media or community members. They'll email Ellen to, I guess, report their displeasure with me and with the Mound House, and Ellen will forward it to me. So I still have a concern, and Ellen and I were both, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Ellen, open to forge those better communication channels between staff and the Friends of Mound House to make sure we don't have any of those future crosswires. But I do apologize. It was insensitive of me to send that email in that way, and I don't want to do it again, or cause any displeasure or do anything that would try to diminish the work and your expertise. But and I'm looking forward to future communications and helping to navigate those governance questions that came up from the MAP peer reviewer meeting from the American Alliance of Museums between the Mound House as a town entity and the Friends as a fundraising entity, and helping sure that we work together and have a clear set of roles and responsibilities so there's no future miscommunications or offenses.
So does that mean I can't wear my Mound House shirt if I were gonna talk to some people?
No.
Oh, okay.
But that's what you said
think we're-
that I couldn't do.
Yes, then we had a conversation and Ellen convinced
But
me
you
otherwise.
didn't you never approached me to start with. You never came back to me and said, we've talked about it and you can do this. What kind of communication is that for a member of CELCAB, a member of the Friends? You know.
Well, I think that's also an issue.
So I will say that Adam and I are going to have conversations on a monthly basis. And I will also say Adam was he was basically thrown into the deep end of the pool, never having had any experience with any of this. And one of the things that came out of the conversation that Adam and I had is that Adam needs to find a mentor, somebody in the museum community, and he and I even talked about how he might go about finding that person, because I think there's a lot of navigation of relationships when you're in the position you're in. And there are a lot of compromises that have to be made in certain things. I mean, Barbara spent her career in this industry. I mean, it is an industry.
It is.
And
Yeah.
you need
It's
to
a profession.
understand how to balance all those things, and it's on a knife's edge.
Well, and actually, Leadership Lee is a wonderful, I went through Leadership Collier, I've also been to Leadership Tampa to understand the nuances of relationships with multi-level areas of responsibility and how to navigate that. And I think understanding how communities work and don't work, I found those experiences extraordinarily valuable. And to that end, we were getting Allison, if you remember, encouraging the town to pay for Allison to go through Leadership Lee, if you remember.
Exactly.
And I think that was about the time that she left. I don't know that she ever went through it, but
But she's in the middle of it now.
is she?
Well, I mean, she's working for TDC. And
Right, well,
yeah.
that's, yeah,
That's a
one
wonderful
segment of it.
program.
Yeah.
It is a wonderful.
Outstanding.
So that is certainly a recommendation. If we never used those funds for Allison, I'd like to say that maybe either Jeff or Adam would be great candidates for next year's Leadership League.
Yeah, and that's also why I applied after the situation to those two programs. The Jekyll Island Management Institute it's a leadership course for museum managers, directors, and then also the HEART, Heritage Emergency at Risk Training. Not only do they do collection stewardship and emergency preparedness, but they also do leadership skills and training.
And the kind of things you will learn in that situation, because in an emergency situation, Jeff is also thrown into the deep end. When people's tempers get short things go awry when things go
On
wrong.
a regular basis,
And
as
we all
we've
know
seen.
that.
What?
Like, like what? And that doesn't even take into account Father Nature, right?
We all try to do our best, but
Yeah.
always need some help.
All right, so, anything more to add to that, Pat?
No.
All right, good, thank you.
Okay, very
thank you.
quickly, I would like to beg you to find that room in town hall, hold on to it, mark further permanent collection storage for stuff we do not want on display, so that in the future, there will be boxes and boxes of protectively collected bags of bits and pieces that we're never gonna look at or could be pulled out. And so that when that cataloging is done, that the Mound House could have that sort of storage available on a more permanent basis.
In the future.
So that
Preserve
more of
it.
the bathroom could be used for more exhibits.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, I can
Like
certainly
the
inquire
sink.
with the town manager if that's
We
an
want
option,
that.
Yeah.
or
I
if
mean,
he.
it could be, it might be
Still reserved.
some number of years in the future before it's needed, but you want dibs
It
on
could also be
We need it
used
now.
for, well, maybe not, but Friends of the Mound House. I was just given a bunch of,
Me
a
too.
bin of stuff from Seal, which I don't know if I should show it to Brianna or Roxanne, who's doing the historian stuff or whatever. Anyway, just thinking about grabbing that space, put a sign on the door and a lock, and then keeping that. Look at the stuff you have to keep in your office that you could put there. Some maybe would not be okay there. But, there's a lot of stuff up in the attic of the garage thing that could be stored there for now, holding the space.
Yeah,
Hold
and
that space.
I'd say if anybody has the town hall would be the second. I think probably Mound House has the most space for storage of any facility that we have right now.
Even the new
Honestly.
town hall?
Besides the new town hall.
Oh,
But
okay.
the new town hall is gonna be pretty full. I mean, we're here really condensed here.
Grab a
so-
room fast.
Yeah, I'll inquire about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky, yes.
So,
Ellen.
and I realize I am remiss because I didn't bring my visual aids. When Roxanne is going through all of the papers and materials that the Friends have collected over their history, and among them she found two pieces that had to do with the Newton family, rather than the Friends of the Mound House, and so she didn't think that they belonged with the Friends of the Mound House. I wanted to bring it to CELCAB and ask if you would agree that maybe it would be a good idea to give it to Ellie Bunting so that it could go to the Estero Island
the
Historic
historic.
Society. I didn't want to make that determination without consulting CELCAB.
Ellen, is it something that we potentially could use as a kiosk or not a kiosk? I'm sorry, I keep saying a display.
It's newspaper. It's a binder with newspaper.
Okay, I
clippings.
just thought if it's something for display, we could do it at Newton, but if not,
Oh,
and I can always talk to
I'll
Elle too.
show it to you. I'll bring
I
it to
think,
you.
well, let's hold on to it for now.
I'm not opposed to that. I'm just saying if it's something we
Yeah.
can use in the park to kind of.
You probably could because it's all about the Newton family.
It really.
I don't want to get rid of it if we have a park named after them and we could
Exact-
use it in there
Is Newton still gonna be called Newton?
No,
currently.
Currently,
But anyway, I will maintain it.
Hold
And
on.
actually, maybe I'll bring it to you, Jeff.
I'm sometimes here.
Hold on to it.
All right, I'll hold on
Yeah.
to it.
I mean, you can if you want to bring it in, we can keep it here.
Yeah.
We certainly
I mean,
can.
it's not taking up that much space. I mean, I live in a little apartment.
No, I mean, but
You're
I
trying to
think
bring
that would
something
be.
home,
We
Penny.
can certainly do that if that's the wish of the advisory board. But that was just a caveat to it.
Okay, so,
Hold on to it
okay, I'll hold on to it
for now.
for now.
Okay, thank you. That's it?
Well, can I say something that the Friends of Mound House,
Yes.
we're very busy with our fundraising in December and in January. We're taking advantage of the event that the Women's Club is sponsoring, the Christmas Tree Festival. And Sherry is
yes.
constructing a tree that's going to have a value of $1,000 on it. And they pre-sell raffle tickets. And
Nice.
I'll let you talk about the theme of the tree. I'll just say that there's a tree and there are 2 wreaths. And then in January, we're going to do the Putt and Pub. And we're looking for donations for that so that our basket brings in a high dollar amount. Some of the baskets that were raffled last year, one of them brought in almost $3,000.
Nice.
2 of them brought in almost $2,000. So we're aiming high this year. and we have a good plan for that.
Ellen, I'm sorry, just a friend's question.
Okay.
Are they hosting a site for parking for donations? Does the Friends of Mount House do that?
We
For the
haven't,
sand sculpture?
no, we didn't.
Okay.
Um,
I was just a question, because then we could have put that plug in a little bit.
Yeah,
Park
yeah.
there instead.
yeah. Well, as you know, all the other not-for-profits, so all of us, I mean, I'm wearing different hats, and
Yeah, of course.
one day wearing this one, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. If they do that next year, maybe we can try to.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, that'll be a recruiting tool for us. People want to learn how to park cars.
I'm sure all the people that the cars are would be great to hear that.
Well, we had a little
trying to
lesson
park
this
cars.
morning. I parked cars for the women's club, and it was, okay, how are we gonna do this?
Oh my gosh.
So,
The tree?
the tree.
Yeah, well, we put $1,000 value on it. Last year, we did $1,000 on it. And we were just kind of trying to decide what we could do this year, because it's unfortunate that they don't just auction the trees for beauty and looks. They want something
Yeah.
in return, like
Liquor?
liquor, lotto tickets, this kind of stuff. Last year I did the 12 days and
Certificates.
certificates and stuff. So we will be doing certificates like that in a way with jewelry. But what we're calling it is the treasure tree, and it's going to be mainly gold. And I ordered some little treasure chests. They're actual little treasure chests. And we are going to put donations in there. And it'll be, I'm sure, probably well over $1,000. So,
Nice.
yeah, so we hope it turns out well.
And
You're-
I would just
and
add that we're approaching local businesses, and because everybody was hit so hard, we're not asking for donations per se from them. I think everyone knows Alex King is very generous to the not-for-profits on this island, giving us seed money to raise more money. So our approach is, we're going to a business, and I did this with Fresh Catch, and they've agreed, that we will buy a gift card, and then they will match it, and they will give us a gift card. So,
Yeah, that's a great
and
idea.
that's the approach I'm using with all the businesses that I'm approaching.
Yeah, and some that won't even take the money.
Yeah, some
will
of them
just
won't.
say, hey,
Oh.
you know,
And just
So-
another, because it's culture, parks and rec. The tree festival will be down at Bay Oaks this year.
yes,
Putting a plug
which
in
is
for-
great.
Okay,
Yeah. So, me, only thing I have is, maybe better communication. And, like, the lecture, I mean, we've all just been so disjointed with all the hurricanes. And I mean, I've been especially busy with people staying at my house and company. But I don't always have a chance. I always check my email. And like yesterday, all of a sudden, there's the lecture. And I may have known about it before, but it's like on the same day, half the time, I can't make it. So I would like to have just maybe more notice of things. And also, I really don't know anymore if I'm a docent, what I'm to do. I'm confused, and I think a lot of others are also, what our roles are with, the underground being closed. Do we, and so, yeah, and I mean.
Why are we there?
Why are we there? And we haven't had any input, anything. I mean, we've really, and we have new rules and regulations for the Friends on things we can't do. And I'm just really feeling
Shut
hurt.
down.
Shut down.
Thank you.
I guess to address that, in regards to the lecture series, it was in the October newsletter, the November newsletter, and I sent out 3 separate email blasts: 2 weeks before, 1 week before, and the day of.
We got one.
Well, I'll check your email. I don't know why you'd get one but not the other 4 emails I sent. And so we'll look into that.
I especially like the day of, because I don't always know what
That's
day
okay,
it is.
but,
And
And they're wonderful, and I couldn't go last night because
mhm.
I wasn't quite out of quarantine.
And you brought up this at the Friends meeting that you guys were all at with me on Monday, your concerns about being a docent. And I told you you're always welcome to docent at the museum. Our real effort is, like what Jeff said, town-wide efforts, doing outreach, especially with marketing, the upcoming opportunities that Brianna's going to have with the collection storage, but especially the outreach. Having someone there to help, like Sandra, for example, with the sand sculpting, reaching out to volunteers. I know doceting was a main way that people engaged. We just don't have the visitors like we had beforehand. And so when there's no one there, the docents tend to leave early, typically around lunch, when you're needed most because there's no visitors. So that's why we've been trying to downplay the docencing at the house, but promote new opportunities both for the museum, but also for engagement for the volunteers. I'm also glad you brought up the roles and responsibilities because I think this might be something to address whenever the map report comes out, because I'm also in an awkward position because you're all volunteers that I manage, but then you're also CELCAB members that govern me. So,
Be very careful.
and you're also Friends members who provide money to the museum.
Yes.
So I don't know which hat you're wearing sometimes when speaking to you, which
That's fair.
which offers up some communication challenges.
Well,
does.
I try to be very clear and tell you what I'm wearing. Lord knows I've got a whole
Yeah,
closet.
and to that point, just really quick, is Adam and I had discussions about, you know, and I don't want to get into the sunshine law again, but just be careful what, you know, he can tell to certain groups. Not that anything's private or anything, but just when you're talking about a CELCAB issue, talking about a friends thing, it gets really muddy. So it might be part of my problem too.
Well, and I think like in Pat's case, I mean, is he doing this because he's a member of CELCAB, which I think all of us should be, you know, in terms of our engaging with the community in whatever way, to let them know about the Mound House. And of course, since Pat's authored the book, he's got a special caveat to sell his book, you know, engage with the audience about the book, but also talk about what's happening at the Mound House.
Encourage people to come back to the Mound House
Well,
who've
there
never
you go.
been there, you know?
Right, so that's separate and apart from either, you know, being on the board of the Friends or even being a member of
Yeah.
Friends. It's a totally separate operation. So, yeah, case in point.
Good.
All right, Betty, do you have anything to add?
Really, I just like the idea of the better communication, and that's the bottom line, and it's only 2 words, but it says a lot. So,
All right,
that's,
and Carrie, how about you?
Adam, I think you did a good job today. I know everybody, I'm new to the board, of course, and everybody's very personal and have their personal feelings, so nice job for what you had to bring up today. I thought that was very nice, and you did the best you could. I think honesty is always the best policy, and I feel like that communication's great, and always keep it moving forward, no matter what, no matter how, you know, uncomfortable it can be sometimes. It's still the best way, and being honest is always the best way. So, good job today.
Thank you, Carrie.
Well, and I for one,
Difficult.
I for one, do get all of the newsletter information, by the way, this is a community conversation, and it's my bad if I'm not putting it in my phone, so I take that. I'm the one to blame here, I'm just saying, I'm taking that.
Maybe just for, I guess, clarity, we can bring the upcoming events here and just pass them out too, if that helps you.
Well,
guys out.
it would,
But-
I mean, I do remember in years past, we always had the,
A list.
Yeah, we-
museum director's
That would be
report,
nice.
and in that, it listed all of
list
the
of
events for that following month, so that we could look and say, well in advance, okay, that's that
Right.
date.
Put it on my
Am
calendar.
I
Put it on
right?
my calendar.
It
Yes.
was, we had a
Yeah.
calendar that was in advance. So, there's that. That's probably what we relied on.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Yes,
When you're done, I just wanna add 2 things.
okay, all right.
Go ahead.
Public comment, would you like to,
yes, yes.
come up and say a
Please.
few words, Susan?
I have to tell you, I am extremely proud, this is Susan Grace again. I'm extremely proud of Fort Myers Beach, you know, just,
Picking up and going forward and not closing down.
Yes.
And I think that's what we need to think about the Mound House too. We're not going to close down. We're going to pick up and we're gonna make the best of what we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Just a
Jeff.
procedural thing, so we wanna set the calendar for next year, since we just had all the reappointments. So it'll be the fourth Thursday of the month, just like we've been doing at 2 p.m., does that work?
Yes, that's great.
Tends to go a little long,
Can it go, is there any chance that it could go earlier than 2 p.m.?
does that work? I mean, would it work for everyone, A, and then B, I'd have to check the calendar, I don't think anything is before this, right?
Can we do
Yeah,
one?
If we could do one, I say
Yeah.
because, and I think there's somebody else on this board that has the same issue. We have season tickets at the Barber Man.
Yeah.
And so we need to be off the island by 3 o'clock at the absolute latest, or we.
Yeah, I mean, just for reference, we do BORCAB at noon, so it,
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I
okay.
mean, we could
How
do
about
one.
noon?
12:30?
I can't do noon because of flights. I
Oh,
won't
yeah.
get here in time.
Can you do 1 o'clock?
I could do one.
Okay,
I might
let's-
be a few minutes late sometimes, but I'll be here.
Let's do 1 o'clock,
1
let's
o'clock.
change it
1
from
o'clock.
2 o'clock to 1 o'clock.
and
That'd
then
be
there are a
great.
few dates, that fall on holidays, so, and we'll have this all printed out, we're gonna put a master calendar with advisory boards. So the Thursday, November 27th, 2025 is Thanksgiving. We're gonna move it the week before to the November 20th. You'll get this in writing too, so you don't have to write it down, but, and then,
That's for 2025.
yep,
Yeah.
for 2025. And then Christmas Day on 2025 is Thursday, also when we'd be meeting. We'll just move that to the 18th if that works for everyone, but
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
everything else, I mean, we can, it'll be on a master calendar. If we have to move something, obviously, we can work on that, but we wanna get it kinda set in stone if that works.
So are we meeting in December then also? Are we?
Are we?
Are we meeting?
Well,
Yes,
Do you
we
want?
are.
That's up to you, that's up to you. Well,
I'm gonna miss because
Yeah.
Be here.
that's when we're flying to Brazil.
I'm gonna miss too.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Come
I
to
think
me.
we
if the
should all
quorum-
miss.
If we
I think
can't
we all
establish
should
a
and take
quorum,
a,
And because we wanted you to
Yeah.
have until January
okay,
anyway.
we can do that.
Okay.
Okay,
That's why I wanted to bring it up, 'cause I know
Thank you.
people travel.
Nothing in
December.
December then.
we'll
No,
cancel
that would be-
December's meeting.
All right.
And that's one
Present
thing
to
that's
us.
also not
One
on this
less
agenda,
meeting
is
missed.
setting the next agenda and the date. So we need to make sure that that isn't added next month for January, let's say. So speaking of agenda items, we did want to add update the 1998 ordinance. And the other one is collection management policy draft. That's the document, and we need to vote on that. And we're also going to continue the conversation about the underground exhibit. And are there any other items that you can see that we need to add to the agenda that you feel, in addition to what we've already mentioned?
I'd like progress reports on where you're coming with the research.
Sure.
Vis-à-vis the underground.
Oh, right. Well, I think that would be part of the staff report, but
Yeah.
definitely.
Just Newton Park.
Newton Park, we need
For
to put
sure,
that on the
because
agenda.
and I'm just thinking of the December one, if they do,
oh,
Jason, do you know when they're presenting for the R2P2?
December, probably.
Can you let us know a date on that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a council meeting.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
mean.
Yeah.
That way
Okay,
I
it'll
can.
be at a
yeah.
council meeting, so
Yeah.
we can look at, okay.
I'm just thinking if they do it and we wanna talk about it, we'll wait till January.
Okay.
Just thinking I'd like to get going on that so we can get it
Yeah.
planned,
Well, we
but,
could also be at the council meeting when that's gonna be presented and there's public comment.
right.
yeah, that's true, and we did already have the two open sessions on Newton Park
Right.
before,
That's
so we
correct.
had a lot of public input, or some
Good.
at least,
Yeah.
the ones that came, so.
Yeah.
We did,